Apocalypse, the Hongmeng Pearl acknowledges its master, starting with infinite space. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction. So don't try any techniques you hear here in real life, your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Chapter 26 Awakening of Superpowers. Lin Chen carefully organized and categorized his day's finds in his room, his mind absorbed in the task. He didn't know how much time had passed. "Brother Lin, dinner's ready," came Li Ya's clear voice from outside the door. "Coming," he replied, opening the door and following Li Ya downstairs. The living room on the first floor was brightly lit, a warm yellow light spilling from the crystal chandelier. Suyun, Josiamin, and Zhang Jing were carrying dishes to the table. The other girls sat scattered throughout the living room, a silent stillness. Some were engrossed in their phones, their fingers mechanically scrolling. Others stared blankly out the window at the relentless, blood-red rain, their eyes vacant. A young girl was curled up in the deepest corner of the sofa, hugging her knees and burying her head in them. Lin Chen walked to the head of the table and sat down, his gaze calmly sweeping over everyone. "Is the room all ready?" he asked, offering no further comfort. At this moment, words often proved powerless. "Everything's done, Brother Lin," Li Ya replied softly, pulling up a chair to sit beside him. "Come and sit down." Lin Chen's voice wasn't loud, but it carried clearly to everyone's ears. "Eat first." The girls silently gathered and took their seats on either side of the long table. The dishes on the table were unexpectedly plentiful: steamed lobster, poached chicken, honey-glazed char siu, slow-cooked soup, and glistening white rice. The aroma filled the air, but no one touched their chopsticks. It wasn't until Lin Chen picked up a piece of chicken that everyone seemed to receive tacit approval and began to pick up their bowls one after another. The silence at the table was oppressive, with only the slight clinking of bowls and chopsticks. But everyone ate quickly, their physical needs overwhelmed everything else at that moment. About an hour later, dinner ended. Lin Chen led everyone back to the living room. "I know you're all scared," he said, his voice steady. "The world collapsed overnight, loved ones may never be seen again, familiar order is gone. Anyone would break down in that situation." He paused, his gaze sweeping over Li Yan, Suyun, the twin sisters, each young face filled with fear. "But people have to live. As long as you're alive, you have to look forward. Thinking of the harsh challenges tomorrow," his tone hardened. "Starting tomorrow, everyone will face zombies and participate in the battle. Since I promised to protect you as much as possible, I won't let you go to your deaths empty-handed." Before he finished speaking, he flipped his palm, and 14 radiant creation crystals appeared out of thin air. "These are called creation crystals. Swallow them, and you can awaken superpowers. In this world, superpowers are not just about strength. More importantly, the awakened body will be naturally immune to the zombie virus." "Immune to infection?" A timid voice came from the corner. It was the student girl who had been curled up. She looked up, and for the first time, a faint light appeared in her eyes. "Yes, immunity," Lin Chen affirmed. "This means that as long as you're not bitten to death on the spot, you won't become zombies." Incredulous light instantly flashed in the eyes of the girls. "Brother Lin, is it really for us?" Josiamin's voice trembled. "What else would we take it out for?" Lin Chen distributed the crystals to each person. "Now, swallow them." Without hesitation, Suyun was the first to put the warm crystal into her mouth, followed closely by the others. Their thirst for power, their tenacity for survival, and their inexplicable trust in the man before them led them to make the same choice. All 14 consumed it simultaneously, and their awakenings began at the same time. Even Lin Chen, who had lived 2 lives, had never witnessed such a scene. The process was astonishingly fast. In less than a minute, their eyes opened one after another. Surprise, disbelief, and the relief of surviving a catastrophe, a multitude of emotions flowed across their faces. When they looked at Lin Chen again, their gazes held an almost burning dependence and trust. I feel fire in my palm," Josiamin exclaimed first, her palm faintly glowing red. "I am ice." Zhang Jing's fingertips swirled with a wisp of icy blue mist. "I feel so light." Wang Ting tried to walk quickly, creating a gentle breeze. The living room instantly came alive, filled with exclamations and whispers. Sister Yoon. Josiah suddenly leaned closer to Su Yoon, her eyes wide. Your skin, how come it's so radiant all of a sudden? Even your dark circles are gone. Su Yoon subconsciously touched her face. It did indeed feel smooth and moisturized. She looked down at her hands. Even the fine roughness at her knuckles, caused by years of work, had smoothed out. Really? An exclamation came from the other side as well. I feel like my pores are smaller. You look so much more energetic. The topic magically shifted to the beauty effects of awakening. Lin Chen stood to the side, a slight smile playing on his lips. Women, indeed. But he knew in his heart that all these people had awakened A-level abilities. Zhang Yingsu, Light of Life, Zhang Yinggao, Life Link, Wu Fang, Thorn Entanglement, Zhou Hongmei, Steel Skin Armor, Ma Xiaoyan, Sonic Impact, Chen Yutong, Healing Light, Zhao Xiaomeng, Phantom Clone, Sun Li, Night Vision Perception, Zheng Jia, Gravity Field, Hu Wan, Lightning Technique. Offense, defense, support, and control, the system was beginning to take shape. The effects of the creation crystal were truly heaven-defying. Unbeknownst to them, this 100% awakening rate and starting A-level aptitude meant what the future post-apocalyptic world would hold. Survivors outside had to risk their lives hunting zombies and consuming crystal cores, with a slim chance of awakening and generally low levels. In comparison, their current situation was divinely favored. Alright, Lin Chen raised his hand, silencing the growing commotion. You can explore the specific effects and development of your abilities later, and quickly build up your combat capabilities. Starting tomorrow, we'll fight side by side. He glanced at the time. Now, let's briefly introduce ourselves and get to know each other. Li was the first to stand up, poised and confident. Li Yan, 22 years old, previously a flight attendant. The twins stood up together. The elder sister, Zhang Yingsu, spoke gently. Zhang Yingsu, this is my younger sister Yinggao, 20 years old, a dance major at Yangchang Art University. Su Yoon stood ramrod straight. Su Yoon, 26 years old, before the apocalypse, a regional operations manager for a chain of Western restaurants. Lin Chen's heart stirred slightly upon hearing these names. In his past life, he seemed to vaguely recall a female superhuman named Su Yoon, around rank B, who had built a team with her outstanding management skills, but later disappeared due to betrayal. Could this be the person before him? He secretly made a mental note. My name is Zhao Xiaomeng, 17 years old, a senior in high school. The girl's voice was barely audible, and she immediately sat down, blushing. Today, I went to the music school to practice the piano. Then, Zhou Xiaomeng, Zhang Jing, Wang Ting, Wu Fang, names were announced one by one. Most of them were recent graduates, sales assistants, cashiers, and waitresses. Finally, there were Chen Yutong, Zheng Jia, Hu Wan, and Sun Li, all college students from nearby universities working part-time. When he left home in the morning, the world was still ordinary. Upon returning, however, everything had changed. After the brief introductions, the initial awkwardness between them seemed to loosen considerably. On the first night of the apocalypse, in this sturdy villa, a nascent team composed entirely of female A-level ability users was quietly born. Chapter 27. Arming the group, heading to the university town. Alright, it's getting late. Go back to your rooms and rest. Get some rest. Tomorrow is when the real work begins. As Lin Chen finished speaking, the women in the living room dispersed. Leah, however, naturally followed him into the master bedroom. But, her nerves, which had been tense all day, suddenly relaxed, and in less than half an hour, she tightly hugged Lin Chen and fell into deep sleep. Lin Chen, however, was still somewhat uneasy, and only managed to close his eyes late into the night. On the second day of the apocalypse, before dawn, the city was shrouded in an ominous gray-red haze. Lin Chen woke up first, and the first thing he did was collect the newly condensed creation crystals from the spirit spring. Including his previous accumulation, the total number had reached 226. When he left the room, Leah had also gotten up, her face slightly flushed, and silently followed him downstairs. In the living room, the others also woke up one after another, their eyes still showing weariness and tension, but their spirits were clearly much better than the lingering fear of the previous day. Breakfast was still prepared by Su Yoon, Zhou Xiaomeng, and Zhang Jing. Simple white porridge, fried eggs, and pickled vegetables warmly settled in their stomachs, bringing a brief, almost illusory sense of everyday life. After the meal, everyone gathered again in the living room. Next, distribute the equipment, Lin Chen said, standing in the center and gesturing for everyone to gather around. As soon as he finished speaking, with a slight thought, 14 sets of simple individual tactical equipment appeared neatly on the floor: bulletproof vests, tactical boots, neck braces, helmets, tactical backpacks, pistols and magazines. Following that, sniper rifles, compressed biscuits, bottled water, first aid supplies, ammunition. Almost all the combat and logistical supplies needed for a well-trained squad were displayed before everyone's eyes. The living room fell silent, save for slightly rapid breathing. This scene was even more shocking than yesterday's sudden appearance of the items. This not only meant that Lin Chen possessed an incredible space, but also that his preparations were extremely thorough. Lin Chen squatted down and began distributing, one set for everyone. Try them on first. Tell me if they don't fit. The women carefully stepped forward to receive their equipment. Some gently touched the cold surface of their bulletproof vests, their eyes filled with disbelief. Others picked up the heavy pistols, their fingertips trembling slightly from the unfamiliarity. Remember, Lin Chen looked at them, his tone serious. This is not a toy. I will teach you how to use it, but you must understand first. When you decide to draw this gun and pull the trigger, it means you may have to end another life, or give your own. The air froze for a moment. The weight of reality pressed heavily on everyone's shoulders. Take all your equipment and let's go. Lin Chen stood up. The real battlefield is the best training ground. The group finished preparing and left the villa. Lin Chen led the way, gun in hand, with Li Ya bringing up the rear. There were clearly more zombies roaming the streets than yesterday, their roars echoing everywhere. Driving was no longer feasible. Lin Chen gave each person a raincoat and stepped out the door first. The women behind him kept their guns close at hand, after a night of rest and awakening of their abilities. Their expressions were much more resolute than yesterday. They formed a tight formation and left the villa area together. The blood rain continued to fall. The vast majority of survivors remained huddled inside the buildings, afraid to venture out. Lin Chen knew that the relative safety provided by this blood rain barrier would only last for 2 more days. Once the rain stopped, the true chaos and competition of the apocalypse would erupt. Various forces, ambitious individuals, and mutated creatures would spring up like mushrooms after rain. He had to seize this last window of opportunity. Not far away, behind the curtains of several villas, suspicious eyes were watching this fully armed team daring to march through the blood rain. Brother Lin, where are we going this time? Zhang Yingsu quickly caught up and asked in a low voice. To the nearest university. Isn't that our school? Zhang Yinggu immediately leaned forward, her tone complicated. Then let's go to your art academy first. Lin Chen made the decision. The team continued forward on the slippery, scarlet streets. The women were soon pleasantly surprised to find that the occasional drops of blood rain falling on their hands or cheeks not covered by their raincoats, apart from being cold, did not cause any burning or mutation. The immunity brought by their awakened abilities had been initially verified, which gradually emboldened them. As soon as they left the villa area, Lin Chen stopped whenever he encountered a stray zombie and began teaching them on the spot. He taught them how to hold a gun, how to aim for the head, how to control their breathing when firing, how to manage recoil, and how to reload quickly. They learned extremely fast. After all, everyone had awakened an A-level ability, and their physical abilities, coordination, and reaction speed far surpassed those of ordinary people. Shooting accuracy required a lot of practice, but with their enhanced physical strength and perception, everyone progressed remarkably quickly. Half an hour later, at least everyone could hold their gun steadily, fire safely, and basically control a recoil, no longer firing blindly like before. Finally, the stylishly designed gate of Yangchang Art University came into view. The number of zombies here had increased significantly. Dozens were estimated to be wandering inside and outside the gate, but still within a controllable range. Wait for me here, stay alert. Before Lin Chen finished speaking, his figure had vanished from his spot. The next second, he appeared atop the tall metal arch of the gate. In another flash, he was standing on the roof of the administration building. He quickly scanned the campus, focusing on the building layout and the distribution of zombies. He soon discovered that the zombies were mainly concentrated in several teaching buildings and dormitories, especially the central main teaching building area, which was clearly the hardest hit zone, teeming with corpses. 5 minutes later, he silently returned to the group. "Let's go to the main teaching building," he said sharply, looking deeper into the campus. "That's where the most zombies are." The others nodded, gripped their weapons, and followed him into the silent campus, now soaked in blood and devoid of its former artistic atmosphere. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 28 Practical Application, Training the Women. Lin Chen led his well-equipped but still somewhat inexperienced team, cautiously advancing deeper into the teaching area while clearing away the sporadic attacks of zombies. The once tree-lined paths were now only echoed with a sticky sound of footsteps on a mixture of blood and fallen leaves. On the empty playground, several mutilated zombies dragged their feet along the track, emitting low growls. Reaching the central square in front of the main teaching building, Lin Chen raised his hand, signaling a stop. 9 o'clock in the morning, this should have been the peak time for students to flock to the building. Now, however, it had become a zombie lair. Behind shattered glass doors lurked staggering shadows, and rotting faces could peek out from around the corners of the stairs at any moment. Even from behind some slightly ajar doors, murky eyes stared intently outside. "Hold on for a bit," Lin Chen said in a low voice. "Those with ranged abilities, use them first to conserve ammunition and stamina. Only fire when your abilities are exhausted or ineffective. Maintain formation, don't panic. These Tier 1 zombies are slow and have limited attack methods, they're not that scary." As soon as he finished speaking, he waved his hand, and several huge standard shipping containers tumbled down, stacking precisely. In just a few minutes, a simple steel fortress, about 10 meters long and over 3 meters high, stood in the center of the square. Then, he deftly set up several heavy-duty folding ladders and shouted to the still somewhat stunned girls, "Quick! Go up one by one. Brother Lin, this is too exaggerated." The twins Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu exclaimed almost simultaneously. Their eyes filled with shock and admiration, they rushed towards the ladders first. Lin Chen stayed behind to cover the rear. Seeing the horde of zombies attracted by the commotion pouring out of the teaching building at an increasingly faster pace, he snorted coldly and made a slight mental movement. A wrecked car, salvaged from who knows where, crashed between the fortress and the horde of zombies, temporarily slowing the advance of the frontline zombies. Once all the girls had safely climbed onto the platform atop the container, Lin Chen used a special teleportation technique to appear above, casually storing the ladder away. Below, more and more zombies gathered, their bluish-black arms scratching futilely at the cold container walls, producing a sickening scraping sound. Lin Chen pointed at them, giving a live demonstration. "Look at their eyes, they're all murky black. That's a typical characteristic of Tier 1. They have almost no intelligence, can't climb, and don't use tools." "And Tier 2? Zhang Yingyu asked, trying to aim at the swaying heads below. "Second tier, grayish-white. Third tier, light blue. Fourth tier, dark yellow. Fifth tier, eerie green," Lin Chen said steadily. "By the sixth tier, their eyes turn blood red. At that point, they're no longer ordinary zombies, but zombie kings. Zombie kings possess rudimentary intelligence and can command hordes of zombies. The seventh tier, the zombie emperor, has purple eyes and intelligence approaching or even surpassing that of ordinary humans, making them extremely dangerous." He paused, glancing at the girls' expressions of surprise and contemplation. "Of course, that's a story for later. Now, let's deal with these in front of us. Brother Lin, are there any above the 8th tier?" Lian had just accurately blasted a zombie trying to leap up with her supernatural beam, lowered her slightly warm hand, and turned to ask. Lin Chen shook his head, his eyes filled with confusion. "I don't know either." He recalled some unpleasant things from his past life. He quickly suppressed his ethereal gaze, his eyes sharpening again. "Don't think too far ahead now. Clearing out the zombies, collecting crystal cores, and improving yourself, that's the key to survival. Suyun," he called out, pointing to a relatively dense horde of zombies to the left front of the platform. "Aim there, use your fire control ability to cover the largest area." Suyun took a deep breath and focused her mind. She stretched out her hands, palms facing forward, a flash of fire seemingly in her eyes. Without warning, a burst of orange-red flames erupted from beneath, and around a dozen or so zombies gathered to the left front. The intense heat instantly ignited the zombies, filling the air with the stench of burning flesh. However, the zombies felt no pain. Those ignited continued to surge forward, even setting their own kind ablaze behind them, creating a bizarre scene of walking corpses rushing towards the fire. The flames spread through the horde, their killing efficiency actually increasing, but the scene and smell made many girls on the platform turn pale. Yingzhu, Lin Chen continued, looking at Zhang Yingzhu, who possessed the Light of Life auxiliary ability. Pay close attention to everyone's condition. If anyone shows signs of fatigue or injury, use your abilities to heal immediately. Xiaoya, Xiaomin. He turned to Li and Zhou Xiaomin. There's a gap to the right front, the horde of zombies is surging in from there. Use your ranged abilities to smash the densest area and block them. Li Yan nodded, her pupils contracting slightly. A condensed, pure white beam of light shot out again, slicing through the scorched earth in the horde, piercing through the heads of several zombies. Zhou Xiaomin let out a sharp cry, and a fist-sized, blazing fireball flew from her hand, arcing as it landed in the horde, exploding with a boom. The shockwave and debris knocked several zombies to the ground. The stench of blood mixed with the smell of burning flesh filled the air. The real battle, amidst chaos and screams, had truly begun. The destructive power of superpowers far exceeded that of ordinary firearms. A surging wave of fire could instantly engulf a dozen zombies, turning them into charred remains. A single massive fireball impact could shatter large chunks of rotting flesh and bone. Unfortunately, the girls were currently only level 1 ability users, with limited spiritual energy. After each of them used their full power 2 or 3 times, they would feel a wave of exhaustion, their spiritual energy depleted, forcing them to pick up their weapons again and continue the bloody harvest with bullets. While firing at the zombies, Lin Chen methodically moved more ammunition boxes and spare assault rifles from his special storage. He even quickly erected a large military tent, completely covering the top of the container platform, providing both rain protection and better concealment. This makeshift steel fortress appeared even more impregnable in the rain of blood. The girls' marksmanship was improving at a visible rate. Li Ya and Su Yun, with their better mental fortitude and physical coordination, learned the fastest, maintaining a stable shooting rhythm and steadily improving accuracy. The twin sisters Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu displayed amazing teamwork, one focusing on suppressing the enemy from the front and the other vigilantly guarding the flanks, their cooperation seamless. Thanks to Lin Chen's prior installation of silencers on each gun, the gunshots, like muffled thunder, didn't disturb the horde of zombies in the distant buildings, effectively controlling the scale of the battle. After fighting for a while, the zombie horde thinned out. Liu changed to a new magazine and suddenly shouted, "Brother Lin, the zombies down there are almost all gone, we're running out of manpower." Lin Chen grunted in response, as if he had expected this. He reached into his storage space and pulled out a large outdoor speaker. Wait! He pressed the switch, and a familiar, almost hypnotic melody suddenly blared, echoing with astonishing volume through the deathly silent campus. "You are my little apple, I can never love you enough." Chapter 29. This art style is a bit off, isn't it? The cheerful, cheesy music contrasted absurdly and jarringly with the bloody, brutal environment. Lin Chen turned the volume knob to maximum. The effect was immediate. In less than a minute, a massive number of zombies poured out of the windows on every floor of the main teaching building, like a hornet's nest had been stirred. Attracted by the continuous, high-pitched sound waves, they crashed through the already broken glass or swarmed out of the stairwells. They staggered and gathered towards the sound source in the center of the square, their numbers far exceeding what they had seen before. Enough. Enough. Too many. Leah, looking at the rapidly gathering horde of zombies below, felt a chill run down her spine and quickly shouted. Lin Chen immediately turned off the speakers, and the piercing music stopped abruptly. But the attracted zombies had already locked onto their target and continued to surge forward, roaring. A new, even more intense battle was about to begin. Having experienced a previous ordeal, the girls on the platform no longer showed their initial panic. Their eyes were focused, and their movements were swift. As their spiritual energy recovered slightly, they unhesitatingly unleashed their powers on the densest part of the zombie horde. The magazine emptied, and her fingers deftly replaced it with a new one. The barrel was hot, so she took the spare gun Lin Chen handed her. Jiang Yingsu kept a close eye on her companions, occasionally releasing a soft light of life, a pale green halo dispelling fatigue and sustaining their fighting ability. Watching them calmly face the life or death pressure and cover each other, a hint of relief flashed in Lin Chen's eyes. However, while they were desperately clearing out the zombies, countless eyes were fixed on the square from behind many windows on the upper floors of the main teaching building. These were the surviving students hiding inside. Listening to the cheerful music and looking at the dense horde of zombies, they felt something was off. Why did they feel an urge to hum along? Down, down there's an army. A boy's voice was hoarse, filled with unbelievable elation, coming from behind a gap in the curtains of a classroom. They're actually killing zombies. So many containers, are they an engineering corps? Not an army, they all seem to be women. A girl next to her, her glasses almost shattered, squinted, trying to discern. Look at that one using fire, that's a superpower, right? Like in the movies. Hope ignited in their hearts like wildfire, only to be quickly swallowed by deeper despair. Zombies roamed the hallways, stairwells, and even outside many classrooms. They were trapped, too afraid to even shout for help. Water, they must have water. In a corner, a boy with chapped, peeling lips stared at the water bottles the girls had casually left on the platform. His eyes were almost greedy, his Adam's apple bobbed with difficulty, and his tense nerves had already left him exhausted. It's been a day, if I don't have water to drink, I'll go crazy. In the next room, the situation was slightly different. Several boys who had developed wicked thoughts after running out of food and were about to force themselves on their roommates were terrified when they saw the rescue team appear downstairs, especially since there were young female members among them. Brother Zhao, stop. A tall, thin boy nervously grabbed the leader's arm and whispered. There might be a special forces unit from the government down there, armed and with superpowers. If they investigate later. The boy called Kang Ji's face changed. He looked at the girl beneath him, who was frozen in fear, then glanced out the window, and finally gritted his teeth and cursed. He reluctantly released her, forcing a stiff smile. Sis, I was just joking with you, don't take it seriously. In this world, everyone has it tough, we have to help each other, right? They quickly put on a hypocritical face, humbly comforting and coaxing the girl who had just been threatened, trying to get away with it. The trapped students were generally in dire straits. They had been without food and water for more than a day, and their mental and physical strength were on the verge of collapse. The tap water in the building had long been proven to cause rapid mutations if consumed, and no one dared to touch it anymore. Only a very few lucky ones who had brought snacks and bottled water with them could barely hold on, desperately hoping for the best. However, not all evil stopped because of the illusion of rescue. In a classroom on the top floor, located at the back of the building and offering no view of the plaza, the air was nauseatingly foul. They couldn't hear or see the gunshots or figures ahead. There were 4 boys and 4 girls in the classroom. In a corner, a girl lay curled up, her clothes torn, her bare shoulders and arms covered in bruises. She was motionless, her fate unknown. The 4 boys formed a semicircle, forcing the other 4 girls into a corner. The boys' eyes were gleaming with a ferocious, beast-like intensity. Thump. A muffled sound rang out as the leader, a boy named Wen Kang, kicked a short-haired girl in the stomach. The girl let out a short scream, her body slamming against the wall, curling up in agony on the floor. Jiang Ting, you damn bitch. Wang Kang gasped, spitting as he spoke. I traded half a pack of biscuits for Wenwen to spend the night with me. What the hell is it to you? Who gives you the right to act like a hero here? Now you dare threaten me with your dad? What is your dad anyway? In this world, who the hell cares who your dad is? He pointed at Wenwen, who lay motionless in the corner, then glared fiercely at Jiang Ting. The other 3 girls, cornered against the wall, instantly collapsed, huddling together and weeping silently. The fragile unity formed by their shared suffering crumbled before the violence. Jiang Ting clutched her throbbing abdomen, struggling to stand, but her legs went weak with pain and fear. Wang Kang, you bastard, your family is just dogs raised by my Jiang family. I will definitely have my dad kill you. She retreated until her back pressed against the cold tile wall, with no way out. Her clothes were ripped open, revealing pale skin, but she didn't care to cover herself. She simply stared intently at Wang Kang, whose gaze, bloodshot and brimming with tears, pressed closer, his eyes filled with rage. She finally, panicked. Please, brother Kang, I was wrong, I really know I was wrong. Jiang Ting's voice trembled violently, all her pride crushed by the instinct for survival. I promise you anything, don't hit me, don't kill me. Chapter 30 Wang Qiang's Triumph. At this moment, Jiang Ting had only one extremely humble thought in her mind: just being alive and breathing is enough. Dignity, innocence, revenge, all these things paled in comparison to the ability to breathe. As long as she could open her eyes and see the light of the next day, anything was acceptable. Wang Qiang grinned, revealing a twisted yet satisfied smile, and reached out to grab Jiang Ting's hair. The three boys behind him let out low, jeering laughs, some even whistled, their eyes gleaming with impatient greed. But Wang Qiang clearly had no intention of letting her off easily. Slap. Slap. A crisp, loud slap exploded in the deathly silent classroom, accompanied by his gritted teeth and curses. Weren't you always so arrogant? Using your father's connections to bully me? Stealing my woman and calling me a toad? Pretending, I'll teach you to pretend. At this moment, Wang Qiang felt incredibly relieved. The fear of being dominated by Jiang Ting for years had been completely released. A few minutes later, Wang Qiang, whose strength had long been exhausted by alcohol and women, stopped, panting heavily. Jiang Ting slumped to the ground, her face bruised and swollen, blood seeping from the corner of her mouth, her eyes unfocused, too weak even to cry. Just then, Wenwen, who had been motionless like a corpse in the corner, twitched her fingers almost imperceptibly. With extreme slowness and difficulty, she lifted her swollen eyelids, her unfocused gaze sweeping over the nauseating scene before her. A faint, yet chillingly cold, smile tugged at the corner of her pale lips. Her lips moved, her breath hoarse and barely audible to herself. It's your turn. This hell on earth, who can escape it? Soon, the classroom, a barrier to civilization and hope, was filled with suppressed sobs, the ripping of clothes, heavy breathing, and the boys' unrestrained, apocalyptic laughter. Outside the window, zombies howled incessantly in the corridor, pounding against a flimsy classroom door with muffled thuds. That thin wooden door now separated two hells. On one side were monsters that only knew how to devour flesh and blood. On the other side were their kin, whose souls had fallen into the abyss, sometimes even more terrifying than the monsters. Meanwhile, in the square, Lin Chen and his group were still fighting tirelessly. The container fortress he had chosen was in a rather cunning location, perfectly positioned in the center of the square between three shaped teaching buildings. It offered a wide field of vision, allowing them to see in all directions. More importantly, it allowed them to herd the zombies drawn out of the three buildings by the noise and gather them in this open space for concentrated treatment, perfectly avoiding the trouble of fighting in the buildings. Time quietly approached noon. Lin Chen was in no hurry to enter the building. The zombie density inside was high and the terrain complex, so he needed to be fully prepared. After clearing out several more waves of zombies that had come at the sound, Lin Chen turned to Li Yi and instructed, Zioya, you lead everyone here and continue. Take turns resting when you're tired, and keep an eye on the allocation of ammunition and superpowers. I'm going to scout around the area. Call me if there's anything urgent. Before leaving, he stored all the zombie corpses piled up under the fortress into his special storage and left plenty of water and food for the girls. Then, he flashed and used special teleportation to reach the edge of the plaza. His first scouting target was a three-story building near the residential area, a student supermarket on the first floor and a cafeteria on the second and third floors. Pushing open the slightly ajar glass door of the supermarket, he found the inside in complete disarray. Shelves were overturned, and snacks, drinks, and daily necessities were scattered all over the floor, mixed with dried or undried blood stains. A dozen or so zombies dressed in student uniforms or shop assistant aprons were wandering around inside. When the apocalypse broke out, those who reacted quickly escaped, while those who reacted slowly either mutated or didn't survive the first wave of slaughter. As for those who escaped, exposed to the continuous rain of blood, their chances of survival were slim. However, these thoughts only briefly crossed Lin Chen's mind before settling down. In his previous life, he had witnessed scenes 100 times more horrific than this. His heart hardened to the point of being as hard as stone. This time, he didn't draw his gun, but instead pulled out a gleaming tang sword from his special storage. His figure moved like lightning, actively charging into the horde of zombies. With a flash of light, each strike ruthlessly slashed at the zombies' neck joints, clean and decisive. A dozen or so level 1 zombies couldn't possibly surround him in the narrow space between the shelves, and soon they all fell. Casually collecting the zombie corpses, he began a whirlwind shopping spree. Boxes of instant noodles, bottled water, individually packaged cookies and cakes, canned meat and vegetables, vacuum-packed cooked food, chocolate. He even took the lighters, batteries, towels, and tissues from the shelves. In less than 5 minutes, everything in the entire supermarket that was still usable and edible, along with several intact shelves and freezers, was stored in his ability space. The supermarket, which had been packed just moments before, was now a desolate wasteland. After clearing the zombies from the first floor, Lin Chen arrived at a tightly closed storage room inside the supermarket. The door was an ordinary metal security door, now firmly locked. He didn't choose to force it open, but instead took out a thin, specially made wire from his special storage. This was a skill he had learned in his previous life from a lone superhuman who made a living by lock-picking. Although not top-notch, it was sufficient for ordinary locks. He crouched down, bent the end of the wire at a specific angle, and gently inserted it into the keyhole. His fingers moved with extremely subtle movements, fiddling with the pins inside the lock cylinder, his movements practiced and quiet. However, after fiddling for about half a minute, he encountered resistance from within the lock cylinder, and the door remained unmoved. He frowned slightly and stopped. Something was wrong. This feeling clearly indicated that someone had locked the door from the inside. Even more strangely, at such close range, with his enhanced hearing, he heard no low growls of zombies or the screeching sound of fingernails scratching at the door. This meant that there was likely a living person inside, and a living person who was rational and knew how to hide. Lin Chen's eyes sharpened instantly, his right hand silently gripping the hilt of his tang sword, dragging the blade to his side. Assuming a posture ready to launch a fatal attack at any moment. The next second, his spatial ability activated. Whoosh! His figure flashed, directly passing through the thick metal door and appearing inside the storage room. Bang! The moment his feet touched the ground, he crashed solidly into a soft body. Ouch! A short, panicked cry of pain broke the silence in the storage room, followed by a crisp crash of shattering. It seemed that some glass object had fallen to the ground and shattered. Judging from the sound, it was probably the only self-defense weapon the other party had. Chapter 31 Beautiful lady, you're ramming me with your baby in your arms. Lin Chen steadied himself and looked at the person he had bumped into. It was a young woman sitting on the ground. Her long hair was slightly disheveled, and her clothes were wrinkled, but it couldn't hide her elegant and refined temperament. Her skin was fair, and her eyebrows and eyes were exquisite. At this moment, her pale pink lips were slightly parted due to fright. The most captivating feature was her almond-shaped eyes, filled with panic and helplessness, yet also revealing a trace of innocent and pure naivety. Her beauty was different from Lia's cold and sharp beauty, and also different from the twins' lively and playful beauty. Instead, she was like a quiet, scholarly beauty who had stepped out of an old art film, with a classical beauty that was unforgettable. The woman came to her senses and saw the man who had passed through the wall. She slowly stood up, rubbing her sore bottom, and muttered softly, her tone aggrieved, You're not a zombie? Then why didn't you knock and say anything? You scared me to death. A few seconds later, she suddenly realized what had happened, widened her eyes, pointed at Lin Chen, and then pointed at the intact metal door that was locked from the inside. Wait? This door was clearly locked from the inside. I still have the key. How did you get in? You were a bit slow to react. Lin Chen's lips curled into a slight smile, his guard down, his tone tinged with a hint of teasing. Beautiful lady, you practically rammed into me while carrying a baby. And, you seem a bit dazed. Lin Chen pointed to her head. The woman's cheeks flushed, she pursed her lips, but still pressed on, don't change the subject. This isn't scientific. To be fair, she was one of the most outstanding women Lin Chen had ever seen since his rebirth. But now Lin Chen was no stranger to beauties. Lia was cold and dashing, the twins were lively, Su Yun was intellectual. Although this woman before him was like a solitary orchid in a secluded valley, she wasn't enough to make him lose his composure. After confirming that the other party was alive and posed no threat, Lin Chen said no more, sheathed his tang sword, and turned to face the supplies in the storage room. With a slight thought, his spatial ability activated again, and he began to quickly collect all usable items. The next second, the woman who witnessed all of this was completely stunned. Canned goods, cases of bottled water, snacks, instant noodles, even the metal shelves themselves vanished into thin air in the blink of an eye. She rubbed her eyes hard, then pinched herself. The sharp pain told her this wasn't a dream. This storage room, barely 20 square meters, wasn't particularly well stocked. Lin Chen only needed 3 mental reflexes to collect everything into his space. Then he turned and walked towards the door. Wait! The woman finally snapped out of her shock, hurriedly running forward and grabbing Lin Chen's sleeve, her voice excited. Where did all that stuff go? Is this magic? Or superpower? Lin Chen stopped, turned his head, and his gaze fell on her hand gripping his sleeve. He slowly moved his gaze upward, meeting her eyes filled with astonishment. Want to know? Sure. But what price are you willing to pay? Price? The woman met his deep, smiling eyes, her heart skipped a beat, and her cheeks flushed even more. She instinctively let go of his hand and lowered her head. Images of the prices women might pay in desperate situations flashed through her mind. Seeing her silence, Lin Chen didn't linger and continued walking. No, don't go. She cried out anxiously, grabbing his sleeve again, her voice soft and pleading. Don't take it all. Could you leave some supplies for me? I need to survive too. Are you the boss? Lin Chen stopped and asked calmly. No. An employee? No. Then why do you say you robbed these supplies? The woman was speechless, opening her mouth but finding no reason to refute him. Her eyes dimmed, and she released his hand. Lin Chen ignored her and continued walking. Then, seeing that this man was about to leave, leaving her alone in this desolate supermarket, possibly still haunted by zombies, fear finally overwhelmed her composure. She reached out a third time, this time almost grabbing his wrist, her voice trembling. Could you take me with you? Leave this place? This time, Lin Chen didn't answer immediately, nor did he shake off her hand. He turned around and looked at her quietly. She understood his gaze. He was waiting for her to show sincerity in making an exchange. I can give you money. Lots and lots of money, the woman said urgently, her words flying. My family owns several luxury homes in the city center. And gold, jewelry, antiques. As long as you take me out and find a safe place, I can have my father give you all of these. Lots and lots. Actually, she had already contacted her family, but no one answered. Now, all she was offering were empty promises. Someone else might have been blinded by such wealth. But Lin Chen's reaction completely extinguished her hope. Lin Chen simply shook his head, directly interrupting her unrealistic fantasies. Look outside, blood raining down, zombies everywhere. Do you think, in this world, houses, gold, jewelry, can still be used to exchange for food, safety, or protection from others? Qi Wei was stunned, her lips trembling slightly. Of course she understood. For the past 2 days, hiding in the storage room, her phone network was filled with images of cities falling and humanity collapsing. Money and jewelry? Long gone. But as a former true golden girl, from a wealthy family and with outstanding looks, why would she need to sell anything to get a meal? She bit her pale lower lip, finally looking up, her voice almost inaudible. Then, what do you want? Can you just say it? That deep-seated pride made her unwilling to lay bare her price tag. During the apocalypse, your freedom and absolute obedience. Lin Chen looked directly into her eyes, his tone leaving no room for argument. The meaning is clear. From now until I consider the apocalypse over, all your actions will be under my command. Fight for me, complete your tasks, and abide by the rules. After the apocalypse, you are free to leave. But during this period, if you outwardly comply but inwardly defy me or betray me, I have plenty of ways to make you regret ever being born. Qi Wei's heart tightened, a chill running down her spine. But strangely, she secretly breathed a sigh of relief. At least, it wasn't the kind of physical demand she feared most. She took a deep breath, then, what will I get? You'll be able to live with more dignity than others. Lin Chen's gaze was piercing. Food, water, a relatively safe place, the chance to become stronger, the chance to see tomorrow's sun. Instead of like now, hiding in a rat hole, barely surviving by scavenging scraps. Not knowing when zombies will break down the door, or you'll starve or die of thirst. He said no more, quietly waiting for her answer. Qi Wei struggled internally. When would this chaotic world end? Who knows? If this apocalypse never ends, relying on this mysterious and powerful man might be the best choice. Finally, as if she had exhausted all her strength, she slowly nodded. Okay. I agree. Name? Qi Wei. Qi as in Qi Jiguang, Wei as in Rose, a third-year art student. Lin Chen said no more, taking out a creation crystal from his special storage. He handed it to her, a slight smile playing on his lips. Eat this. It will awaken your superpowers, and make you immune to the zombie virus forever. Qi froze, staring at the crystal-clear gem in her palm. Awaken superpowers, that simple? Just by eating a candy? Chapter 32 Qi superpower, metal enchantment. Qi hesitated only for a moment before putting the crystal into her mouth. If Lin Chen really wanted to harm her, why would he go through all this trouble? The spirit crystal melted instantly upon entering her mouth, transforming into a warm current that slid down her throat. My name is Lin Chen, I'm older than you. You can call me Brother Lin, or Captain, it's fine either way, Lin Chen introduced simply from the side. Then I'll call you Brother Lin, Qi replied softly, feeling the subtle flow within her body. Before she finished speaking, a heat wave far more ferocious than expected exploded from her danshan. In just 1 minute, the torrent of heat gradually subsided. Qi, however, clearly felt that her once pampered body was now filled with unprecedented resilience and strength, its intensity more than doubled. At the same time, a clear piece of information naturally surfaced from the depths of her mind. Special ability, metal enchantment, rating A. What did you awaken? Lin Chen asked, his tone filled with anticipation. It's an A-level ability. Qi felt the new energy surging within her, her voice trembling slightly with excitement. It's called metal enchantment. When she looked at Lin Chen again, her eyes were completely different. Beyond the initial shock and awe, there was now a closeness and trust nurtured by the creation crystal, a burning light flickering in her eyes. A glint flashed in Lin Chen's eyes. Enchantment-type ability. This was a true strategic resource in the later stages of the apocalypse. Facing those thick-skinned, incredibly resilient, and even special ability high-level zombies and mutated beasts, ordinary firearms would eventually become scrap metal. Only weapons and armor enhanced by enchanters, imbued with attributes like sharpness, armor-piercing, and penetration, could tear through their defenses and secure victory. This Qi was an unexpected delight. The long-term value of an A-level metal enchanter was probably greater than several combat-type ability users of the same level combined. Without a word, he immediately took out a set of tactical gear from his special storage and handed it to her. Put this on. Then, he pulled out a simple-looking tang sword and handed it to her. Try your ability. Qi took the sword, took a deep breath, and concentrated. She felt the newly generated energy within her, subtly resonating with the metal, and slowly guided it to the blade. About a minute later, the entire tang sword suddenly flashed with a layer of flowing, pale white light, then subsided. The blade, however, exuded a completely different sharpness. It's done. Brother Lin, here you go. Qi's voice was full of surprise. Lin Chen took the sword and casually slashed diagonally down at a nearby metal shelf. Crack. With a piercing tearing sound, the shelf was cleanly sliced open like tofu, the cut surface smooth as a mirror. Lin Chen examined the unbent, even more gleaming blade and nodded in praise. Very good. He didn't linger any longer, taking Qi away from the storage room to begin clearing the zombies from the second and third floor cafeterias. Perhaps their luck had run out, for apart from a few dozen wandering zombies, no other survivors were found on these two floors. Lin Chen's knife skills remained as sharp as ever, each strike aimed directly at a vital point, while deliberately slowing down his pace to give Qi time to adjust. Qi, on the other hand, used her new ability somewhat awkwardly. She concentrated, and a faint metallic gleam appeared on the blade of her tactical dagger. Then, she spotted a staggering zombie and slashed sideways. With a whoosh, the blade sliced through the zombie's skull, its head cleanly severed in half, and its body crashed to the ground. In less than half an hour, the two floors were completely cleared. Back at the supermarket exit on the first floor, Lin Chen asked, "Does your school have any other supermarkets or convenience stores?" "Yes." Qi nodded immediately. "There's another supermarket in the faculty and staff living area, next to the graduate student dormitory building, about the same size as this one." Led the way. "Huh? Oh, okay." Qi was taken aback at first, then realized her new role as a guide. "This way, turn left, go through the small garden and the basketball court, and you'll get there. I'll take you." She strode ahead. Lin Chen followed behind Qi, heading towards the supermarket in the faculty and staff living area. Along the way, he didn't miss any of the small convenience stores, creative shops, or even the vending machines. As for the scattered zombies, their heads often fell to the ground before they could even fully turn around, and their corpses were immediately stored in Lin Chen's special storage. Qi silently followed behind, her gaze always unconsciously drawn to that extremely calm figure. Every movement he made was so swift, carrying a kind of instinct honed through countless trials. This composure and strength, far beyond his years, not only shocked her but also quietly fostered a stronger trust in her. Brother Lin, he's really strong, she thought quietly. And his profile during battle, so calm and focused, has an indescribable charm. Just as this thought arose, for some reason, the image of his deep, smiling eyes when he handed her the spirit crystal, and his teasing question, "What price are you willing to pay?" flashed through her mind again. Her ears burned, and she instinctively brought her legs together, a faint blush rising to her cheeks. 20 minutes later, the two arrived at their target supermarket. A dozen or so zombies dressed in supermarket uniforms or school uniforms roamed the entrance. Lin Chen didn't waste any words, he drew his tang sword. His figure flashed, a cold light streaking across the air, and a dozen ferocious heads fell to the ground. Then, with a sweep of his mind, the supermarket shelves and their merchandise vanished instantly, leaving only an empty storefront. This supermarket has a second floor, Qi pointed to the stairs beside her, reminding her softly. The two slowly ascended the stairs. As soon as Qi stepped onto the second floor platform, the scene before her made her pause slightly. In the corner, on a load-bearing pillar, two zombies were tightly bound with rough nylon rope, struggling and growling. Judging from their clothing, they appeared to be supermarket employees. Not far away, near a coffee table by the window, two women stood in fear. They had clearly been awakened by the commotion below and the zombies' howls. One of them was about 24 or 25 years old, dressed in a well-tailored beige casual outfit, her hair neatly tied in a single ponytail, and she was tall. She had a beautiful face, and her eyes possessed a gentle and ethereal quality unique to artists. The other woman was slightly older, around 30, with a full and well-proportioned figure and fair skin. Her round, oval face, paired with gentle eyes, exuded the unique charm and approachability of a mature woman. Both were about the same height, around 1.68 meters. "Teacher Bai," Qi called out in surprise, quickly stepping forward. "Qi? It really is you. You're alive." The young woman called Teacher Bai rushed forward and tightly grasped Qi's hand. Her eyes were filled with disbelief and joy at surviving such a close call. "That's great," I thought. "Yes, I'm all right." "Teacher Bai, what are you doing here?" Qi nodded repeatedly and asked with concern. "I'm friends with Huangfu Lan, the owner of this coffee shop, Sister Lan." Baizen pointed to the elegant and beautiful woman behind her. "We were supposed to meet here yesterday to discuss something." Then she turned to Huangfu Lan. "Sister Lan, this is my student, Qi, a top student in our art department." "Hello, Qi. I'm Huangfu Lan, the owner of this coffee shop." The beautiful woman stepped forward, her voice slightly hoarse. Chapter 33 Baizen and Huangfu Lan. As Baizen explained, she gestured towards the two zombies bound in the corner, her face showing lingering fear and helplessness. "When the blood rain first started, Lan Ji and I were drinking coffee by the window when chaos suddenly broke out downstairs. The shop assistant, Xiao Li, and the cashier, Zhang Ji, rushed up in a panic, shouting, 'The rainwater is poisonous, anyone who gets wet will turn into a monster.' But they were already soaked. We were afraid something would happen to them, and we were also afraid they would hurt someone, so we tied them up first, wanting to observe them a bit more. As a result, within a few minutes, they really did turn into zombies. Soon, the downstairs was filled with the roars of zombies, and we were too scared to go down, so we've been hiding here." After she finished speaking, she turned to look at Lin Chen, who had been standing quietly to the side, holding a blood-stained tang sword, his demeanor calm and composed. With a slight hesitation, she asked Qi, "Is this also a classmate of ours?" "No, Teacher Bai," Qi quickly introduced, her tone unconsciously carrying a hint of respect. "This is Lin Chen, Brother Lin. He's an awakened one, specializing in hunting zombies, searching for supplies, and finding survivors." She then turned to Lin Chen and said softly, "Brother Lin, this is our art department sketching teacher, Baizen, Teacher Bai. Superpowers? Awakened one?" Baizen's eyes lit up, as if she had suddenly glimpsed a ray of light in endless darkness, instinctively wanting to grasp at this glimmer of hope. "Mr. Lin, can you take us away from here?" Upon hearing the words "Awaken One," Huang Fulan took 2 steps forward urgently, her voice pleading, "I can give you a reward. Money, or this shop, anything. As long as you can help me find my husband and child." "Yes, Mr. Lin," Bai Xin quickly added. "Sister Lan's husband and child were playing in the school's central park when the blood rain came. We haven't been able to contact them, and we don't know what they are." She didn't finish her sentence, but the worry and unease in her eyes were clearly visible. "The park?" Lin Chen frowned slightly. "Do you think she could still be alive in that kind of open outdoor environment, facing continuous blood rain and the first wave of zombies? We have to go see them, don't we?" Huang Fulan's eyes instantly reddened, tears welling up, her tone almost pleading. "I need to see them alive or dead. I need to see their bodies. I can't just leave them like this." Bai Xin also pleaded softly, "Mr. Lin, please, help us. The park isn't far from here. No matter what, there has to be a result so that Sister Lan can give up. If I hadn't desperately stopped her, Sister Lan would have already rushed into the blood rain." Qi Wei, standing to the side, was also touched by the deep maternal love and obsession, looking at Huang Fulan's sorrowful yet stubborn profile. She couldn't help but softly chime in, "Brother Lin, the park isn't far ahead, why don't we take a look? It won't take too much time." Lin Chen was silent for a moment. He wasn't heartless, but he had seen too many similar scenes and knew how slim the hope was, and how often it was accompanied by unnecessary risks. But seeing the expectant looks in the eyes of the 3 people before him, especially Huang Fulan's almost broken gaze, he finally nodded, "I can take you there. But the blood rain outside hasn't stopped. You haven't awakened your abilities, so even if your skin only gets a drop, there's a very high probability of you getting infected with a virus and turning into zombies. You must understand this." "You mean?" Bai Xin keenly grasped the key point in his words, "as long as you awaken your abilities, you won't be afraid of the virus in the blood rain?" "Yes." Qi Wei nodded in confirmation, even extending her palm, a faint golden glow belonging to the metal enchantment ability emanating from it. She then wiped the blood-soaked fabric from her shoulder. "You see, I just awakened recently, and a little rain has completely stopped me. Then, how can we awaken our abilities?" Huang Fulan seemed to see the only way out, her gaze burning as she looked at Qi Wei and Lin Chen. Qi Wei didn't answer directly, but instead cast a questioning look at Lin Chen. Lin Chen took out 2 crystal-clear creation crystals from his special storage and held them in his palm. "Eat these, and you'll awaken your supernatural abilities and gain immunity to the zombie virus." Bai Xin and Huang Fulan looked at the magical crystals, their eyes shining with hope. "However, there are conditions." Lin Chen's voice was calm and even, yet undeniably firm. "After awakening, you must join my team and obey my commands until I deem this apocalyptic disaster over. At that time, you can freely choose to stay or leave. But during this period, if you dare to disobey or betray me..." His gaze suddenly sharpened, sweeping over the 2 of them. "I will let you know what true suffering is like." Huang Fulan barely hesitated. For her, there was no other choice. She stepped forward, took a creation crystal, and gave Lin Chen a deep look. Then, she tilted her head back and swallowed the crystal. She understood perfectly, staying on the 2nd floor of this coffee shop, they would eventually starve to death or be discovered by zombies. Death was only a matter of time. If she wanted to live, if she wanted a chance to see her husband and child again, even if it was just for the last time, following this mysterious and powerful awakened one was probably the best, and only, choice. As for deception, she no longer had the right to doubt. A minute later, Huang Fulan's body trembled slightly, and she opened her eyes. A trace of confusion flashed across her face, quickly replaced by immense joy. She clearly felt the new power surging within her, a power close to the water element. Her palms unconsciously clenched, and a handful of clear water appeared out of thin air. Her gaze towards Lin Chen unconsciously carried the piety and reliance bestowed by the creation crystal. "Thank you, Mr. Lin. I really have a superpower. Call me leader from now on," Lin Chen said calmly. The other party was clearly older than him. Calling her Mr. felt too formal. Calling her brother felt awkward. "What did you awaken?" "It's an A-level superpower, water condensation technique," Huang Fulan answered after carefully sensing it, her tone filled with incredible joy. Lin Chen's heart stirred slightly. A very practical auxiliary superpower, especially in a post-apocalyptic world where water sources were polluted. It was of immense value. He then turned to Bai Xin. Seeing that Huang Fulan was unharmed after consuming the spirit crystal and had indeed awakened her special ability, Bai Xin's last trace of hesitation vanished. She took another creation spirit crystal, took a deep breath, and swallowed it as well. A moment later, her eyelashes fluttered, and a strange light shone in her open eyes. "Mine is great telepathy," she murmured softly, with a hint of uncertain surprise. "It seems I can vaguely sense the emotions of the people around me, and also their simple thought processes." A look of satisfaction flashed in Lin Chen's eyes. Telepathy was also an extremely rare and invaluable auxiliary ability. Especially in the complex interpersonal relationships and frequent betrayals of the post-apocalyptic world, a reliable telepath could often play a role far exceeding that of ordinary combat personnel. Chapter 34 Huang Fulan's Despair, Rejoining the Team. Lin Chen didn't linger. He swiftly dispatched the two bound and completely zombified employees with his tang sword, then collected all usable coffee beans, drinking water, snacks, and other supplies from the second-floor coffee shop. "Let's go to the park," Lin Chen said concisely, leading the newly joined Huang Fulan, Bai Xin, and Qi Wei, quickly leaving the coffee shop and heading towards the park in the center of the campus. In less than 10 minutes, the four arrived at the edge of the park. In the center of the park was a small artificial pond, its water stained a faint, dirty red. The trees were scattered, and broken benches and sculptures lay strewn across the lawn, stained with blood. Dozens of zombies roamed the park, mostly dressed as students. While clearing away the approaching zombies, the group followed Huang Fulan's urgent directions, searching the area where her husband and child were last seen, as she remembered them. There. Suddenly, Huang Fulan let out a piercing scream, her entire body frozen as if struck by lightning, filled with despair, before she rushed forward uncontrollably. Seeing this, Bai Xin quickly pulled Huang Fulan back. In the shade of a tehu rockery not far away, two zombies, one large and one small, were slowly moving. The larger one wore a dark blue sweatshirt, and the smaller one, no more than 3 or 4 years old, wore a brightly colored children's outfit printed with cartoon dinosaurs. They had become zombies. Huang Fulan's legs went weak, and Bai Xin, quick as a flash, caught her again as she nearly collapsed. Tears streamed down her face, and she let out a wail of utter grief and despair, struggling to lunge forward. Lin Chen stepped forward, his arm like an iron clamp blocking her path. "Calm down," he hissed. Bai Xin also clung tightly to her waist, her voice trembling with sobs. "Sister Lan, look closely. They're not Brother Qin and Xiao Bao anymore. They're zombies." Lin Chen, watching this scene, though his heart was already almost ice cold, was still deeply moved. But he knew all too well, in the apocalypse, impulsive emotions often meant death. He said nothing more and quickly took out a long rope. With a swift movement, the back of her blade struck the joints of the two zombies precisely, knocking them down, and then she swiftly bound them. The two zombies writhed and howled in vain on the ground, their gray eyes staring blankly at the sky, showing no trace of their loved ones. Huang Fulan staggered closer, kneeling weakly before the bodies of her husband and child. She reached out her trembling hand, wanting to touch their familiar faces, but recoiled as if burned before she could make contact. She simply knelt there, her shoulders heaving violently, her suppressed sobs mingling with the ceaseless rain of blood, a desolate sound that chilled to the bone. Lin Chen, Qi Wei, and Bai Xin stood silently to the side, no one speaking. The wind swirled the scarlet raindrops, sweeping across the rippling, murky pool, rustling the leaves as if in mourning. After more than 10 minutes, the weeping subsided, turning into silent sobs. Huang Fulan slowly rose, her steps unsteady as she walked to Lin Chen. She raised her swollen, red eyes, her voice hoarse like a broken bellows, yet carrying a chilling determination. "Leader, give me a gun. I want to send them off myself." Lin Chen said nothing, drawing a pistol from his waist, checking the safety and magazine, and steadily handing it to her. Huang Fulan took the cold metal, her knuckles white from the force. She took a deep breath, as if using all her strength, and walked step by step towards the small figure dressed in a cartoon dinosaur costume. Her trembling arm slowly rose, the gun aimed at the head that had once belonged to her flesh and blood, now only an empty, grotesque hole. Bang! Bang! 2 gunshots rang out, particularly jarring in the silent park. The zombies' howl ceased abruptly. The world seemed to fall silent for a moment. Do you need me to temporarily collect their remains, and later, find a suitable place for burial? Lin Chen stepped forward, his voice a few decibels lower than usual. A glimmer of light appeared in Huang Fulan's dim eyes. Is it okay? Yes. He waved his hand, taking the two motionless bodies into a separate corner of his ability space. Then, he turned to Qi Wei, his tone regaining its composure. Are there any other supermarkets or convenience stores within the school grounds? No. These are the only two that are big enough. Qi Wei shook her head, her voice somewhat dejected. Then let's go back. Go back where? The teaching buildings, the square. Lin Chen looked towards the teaching building complex, his gaze deep. Did you notice? As we walked from the supermarket to the park, we encountered fewer and fewer scattered zombies. A faint, almost imperceptible smile curved his lips. Most of them were lured to the square and cleared out. Follow me, and you'll understand soon enough. The four began to turn back. Bison and Qi Wei supported the dazed Huang Fulan on either side, following Lin Chen's steady steps towards the square where the gunfire had not yet subsided. Returning to the central square, the scene was still horrifying. The ground was almost entirely covered in zombie corpses, dark red and black blood soaking into the concrete, forming viscous streams. A heavy stench of blood and gunpowder filled the air. Leah was leading the group of women, holding their ground on the container platform, using cover, their gunfire crisp and rhythmic, picking off the last of the staggering zombies that approached. Lin Chen grabbed the wrists of the three women beside him, activating his special ability, whoosh. The four of them instantly appeared on the container platform more than 3 meters high. Brother Lin. You're back. Leah saw him immediately, her eyes shining brightly. She lowered her gun and quickly stepped forward, naturally tightening her grip on Lin Chen's arm, as if to confirm his presence. Her gaze quickly swept over the 3 new members behind Lin Chen, each with a different air about them, a barely perceptible scrutiny flashing in her eyes, but she asked nothing, only tightening her grip on Lin Chen's arm. Lin Chen smiled and gently pinched her nose. Well done. Your marksmanship and command have improved. He looked around. The bullet impacts were dense and effective, with the vast majority of zombies being headshot from a distance, and the piled-up corpses indicated that the battle was consistently kept at a safe distance. The team's growth was evident. He then gave a brief introduction to both sides. When the twin sisters Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu saw Qi Wei, their faces lit up with surprise. Senior Qi Wei. You're alive. That's great. Qi Wei also looked at the twin sisters with surprise. The 3 were all campus beauties from the art academy, so they were somewhat familiar with each other. In this world that resembled a reappearance of hell, a familiar face was a vestige of comfort from the old world. However, the current situation was special, and the 3 only exchanged a brief greeting. It was already past 2 p.m., and the zombies in the square had been mostly cleared away. Lin Chen took out a high-powered speaker again, skillfully pressed the switch, and a new round of pop songs began, luring the last batch of wandering zombies in the main teaching building and nearby buildings into the slaughterhouse, where they were then eliminated one by the superior firepower. After confirming that there were no longer any large-scale zombie threats in the square and surrounding areas, Lin Chen gave his first order to enter the building. Everyone, check your equipment and replenish your ammunition. Prepare to enter the teaching building for indoor clearing and search and rescue. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 35 Cleaning Teaching Building Number 1. The group descended from the platform in order. Lin Chen waved his hand, storing the container fortress, along with its tents, excess ammunition boxes, and other supplies, back into his special storage. Lin Chen took the lead, wielding a tang sword and a pistol, and entered the nearest teaching building. Once inside, everyone removed their raincoats, traveling light. The building was dimly lit, dust floating in the crimson light filtering through broken windows, mingled with a faint, almost imperceptible, stench of blood. The group's footsteps were steady, occasionally punctuated by short gunshots. From the depths of storage rooms, beneath the podium, behind the toilet partitions, faces gleamed with near despair. Their faces were etched with extreme fear, yet lit by an unbelievable joy and a desperate hope of rescue. They timidly and spontaneously followed behind the armed group. As they cleared each floor upwards, the trail of survivors grew like a snowball, including students and teachers. Half an hour later, the group reached the top floor. As soon as they stepped into the corridor, several zombies, perhaps attracted by the commotion below or perhaps already roaming the area, roared and pounced from the shadows. The combat personnel had reacted swiftly and coordinated perfectly. Supernatural abilities and gunfire clashed, quickly silencing the corridor once more. "Split and check both sides," Lin Chen ordered. "Leah, you lead a team to check the right side. I'll lead a team to check the left side. Maintain communication." "Understood." Leah nodded, quickly pointing out Zhang Yingsu, Zhou Xiaomin, and 8 others, then turned and advanced towards the right side of the corridor. Meanwhile, at the end of the right corridor, in a classroom with its doors and windows tightly shut, a completely different world unfolded. Smoke swirled, mingling with the smell of sweat and an indescribable stench. Wang Qiang and his 3 accomplices slumped on the floor, smoking cigarettes they'd found in some drawer, trying to numb their nerves with nicotine and enjoy the post-violent relaxation. In the corner, 5 girls, ragged and with vacant eyes, seemed to have had their souls ripped out, leaving only undulating shells. "Brother Qiang, listen." Yang Wei, the lackey, suddenly listened intently, his face drained of color, a mixture of hope and deep unease. "Outside, are there gunshots? And the sound of many footsteps, is it, that the rescue has really arrived?" Wang Qiang's expression changed drastically in an instant. The ruthlessness and emptiness he felt just moments before were quickly replaced by panic. His father, Wang Gang, was a notorious figure in the eastern part of Yangcheng. He had made his fortune through lending money and operating in the gray market, employing a gang of ruthless thugs. Wang Qiang had been immersed in this environment since childhood, and ruthlessness and lawlessness were ingrained in his bones. His eyes were sinister as he swept over the 5 girls with lifeless eyes in the corner, then glanced at his 3 accomplices who were also beginning to tremble beside him. With a desperate growl, he yelled, "Damn it! Let's go all the way. We can't leave any survivors. Kill them all, throw them out the window. Just say they were driven to suicide by zombies. No one can prove it." Hearing this, Yang Wei and the other 2 were struck dumb, their backs instantly soaked in cold sweat. It was only the second day of the apocalypse. Deep down, they were still students who hadn't experienced true bloodshed. Their remaining conscience clashed fiercely with their instinctive fear of killing, their faces filled with struggle and horror. "Useless!" Wang Qiang cursed, suddenly rushing to the window and lifting a corner of the curtain. In the corridor, shadowy figures moved slowly towards them, several armed men advancing. "No time." He ran back, his eyes bloodshot. "Hurry. No time to waste. Throw them out. That's it. Loser, you hold the door open. Buy every second you can." He roared at the skinny boy nicknamed Loser. "No." In the corner, the 5 girls' already numb nerves were utterly ripped apart by this final death sentence. The instinct for survival overwhelmed everything, and they erupted in a shrill, distorted cry and struggle. Almost simultaneously. "Sister Yam." The innermost classroom. "Someone is crying and calling for help." Zhang Yingyu's ears were extremely sharp, and she instantly pointed to the end of the corridor. Li Ya's eyes turned cold, and without the slightest hesitation, "Everyone, follow me. Quick." The group rushed towards the target classroom like arrows released from a bow. "The door is locked from the inside. We can't break it open." The girl who reached the door first said urgently. "Get out of the way." Li Yu took a half step back, and a bright, dazzling pure white beam of light instantly condensed in her palm, which she blasted towards the joint between the door lock and the hinge. Boom! A loud explosion shattered. The wooden classroom door and part of the door frame shattered. The loser who had been desperately blocking the door with his body was blown away by the violent impact, screaming as he crashed onto the podium, the sound of bones breaking clearly audible. Inside the classroom, Wang Qiang and his gang, already weakened from their ordeal, were further weakened by the girls' desperate resistance. Coupled with the unexpected speed at which Li Ya and her group broke down the door, they couldn't even manage to push one girl off the windowsill. The other 2 boys, terrified by the thunderous crash, instinctively released their grip on the girls. Only Wang Qiang, his eyes bloodshot like a mad dog, remained, still clutching Zhang Ting's hair and arm, half of her body already hanging out a window. His face was twisted in a ferocious grimace, determined to throw this troublemaker down with him. Bang! A gunshot ripped through the murky air. Wang Qiang's body stiffened abruptly, a burst of blood exploding on his back near his heart. His life force was rapidly drained. Taking advantage of this moment, Jiang Ting used her last ounce of strength to break free, crashing back onto the classroom floor, trembling like a leaf in a storm. Li Yan, gun in hand, stepped in first, coldly sweeping her gaze over the 4 boys inside. Don't move. Hands to your head. Crouch down. Behind her, the other female team members filed in, quickly taking control of every corner. The 5 girls, survivors of the ordeal, saw this group of warriors who seemed to have descended from the sky. Their last taut nerve snapped, and they collapsed to the ground, wailing uncontrollably. Tears streamed down their faces, washing away the filth and wounds. Lin Chen, hearing the gunshots and the commotion, had already arrived from the left with his men. He stood by the broken doorframe, his gaze sweeping across the entire classroom. Overturned desks and chairs, signs of a fierce struggle. Girls sobbing with disheveled clothes, boys with ashen faces, a lingering, murky atmosphere in the air. His 5 years of struggle in the apocalypse of his previous life allowed him to almost instantly piece together the most sordid and despicable scene of humanity that had just unfolded here. Save me, I don't want to die. Wang Qiang, barely breathing, collapsed to the ground, struggling to look at the crowd, pleading, my dad is Wang Yang. I'll give you money, lots of money, save me. Don't save him. Jiang Ting, her face bruised and blood trickling from her mouth, suddenly raised her tear-blurred eyes and let out a heart-wrenching scream. He's a beast. A demon. Chapter 36 Good and Evil. Chen Yutong, who possessed healing abilities, looked at Lin Chen, awaiting his instructions. Her healing light might still save Wang Qiang's life. Lin Chen didn't respond immediately. He sensed things weren't so simple. He slowly walked into the classroom, his gaze calmly sweeping over everyone present. Tell me, what happened? He intentionally used this case to teach the team members, most of whom still held pre-apocalyptic mindsets, a lesson about the realities of the apocalypse and human nature. It was them. Wang Qiang and the others. Jiang Ting sobbed uncontrollably, her voice hoarse and broken. They stole our food and water. She pointed to the girl with vacant eyes in the corner, then to the dying Wang Qiang, that beast. He tried to exchange half a pack of biscuits for Wenwen to stay with him. We refused, so he hit us, and even, Several other girls added, their fragmented words piecing together a tragic outline of coercion, violence, struggle, and assault. Bison, Qi Wei, the twin sisters, and other teachers and students from the art academy listened with ashen faces and burning anger in their eyes. Qi Wei even muttered under her breath, scum. However, when Lin Chen turned his gaze to Yang Wei, who was trembling like a leaf, and asked, what about you? Tell me, why? Li Yat and the others looked puzzled. Wasn't the truth already clear? Yang Wei lowered his head, his voice trembling, yet he still managed to speak haltingly. Brother Qiang. Wang Qiang's family runs a loan sharking operation in the university town area. They have considerable influence, and many students are afraid of them. Jiang Ting. Jiang Ting's father is Vice Mayor Jiang, who oversees education, culture, and health. She's their backer. He swallowed, his Adam's apple bobbing, but Jiang Ting, she likes girls. Since high school, she's often stealed girls that Brother Qiang had his eye on or was pursuing. Although many of those girls were after Brother Qiang's family's money and power, and were willing to throw themselves at him, at least on the surface, it seemed like they were doing it voluntarily. But later, they were all snatched away by Jiang Ting. Brother Qiang has been holding onto this grudge ever since. He paused, pointing to Wenwen, whose eyes were lifeless in the corner. On the day the blood rain fell, Brother Qiang reacted quickly, exchanging a lot of food and drinks from some classmates at high prices. Wenwen's. The snacks and water were sold to Brother Qiang. He pointed to another girl. Later, when they couldn't get out at all, Jiang Ting tried to use her family connections to force Brother Qiang to share the supplies with her and her girlfriends. Brother Qiang didn't agree, and the conflict escalated. He hurriedly added, Wenwen was the first to get too hungry, so Brother Qiang offered half a pack of biscuits in exchange for her spending the night with him. Wenwen herself agreed. But this completely enraged Jiang Ting. His voice grew lower and lower. Wenwen and the other 3 girls were actually all Jiang Ting's girlfriends. Wenwen originally had a boyfriend, but Jiang Ting had someone force that boy to drop out of school and dump Wenwen, so Wenwen gave up on herself and followed her. So this incident wasn't just Brother Qiang and his group doing evil, There were actually many grudges behind it. Jiang Ting, standing to the side, turned pale and then flushed. She never thought that as the mayor's daughter, she would have her reputation exposed. But seeing Lin Chen's cold eyes, she didn't dare interrupt Yang Wei's narration. After listening to Yang Wei's halting yet information-rich narration, Li Yan, Zhou Xiaomin, and the others were stunned. It turned out that what was unfolding in this hellish classroom wasn't just a simple tragedy of perpetrator and victim. It was a nauseating quagmire, a tangled web of years of campus power struggles, twisted emotional relationships, material temptations, and malice that erupted under the pressure of an apocalypse. Simple binary views of good and evil seemed blurred and powerless here. Lin Chen listened quietly, his gaze sweeping over each young face, whether angry, sad, confused, or bewildered. "Remember what you saw and heard today," he said slowly. "The apocalypse won't make bad people suddenly good, it will only strip away their last pretense." He paused, then added, "You must also understand that most of the time, especially in dire straits, there aren't so many black and white good and evil in the world. What exists are often just different stances, the eruption of pent-up resentment, and choices that humanity is forced to make under the pressure of survival." Lin Chen was clearly telling everyone that in the apocalypse, one shouldn't simply look at good and evil, only at stances and interests. He turned around and calmly said to Chen Yutong, who was waiting for instructions, "Don't save him." Then, he turned and walked out of the classroom filled with sin, sorrow, and the complexities of human nature. Jiang Ting and the others quickly packed their clothes and followed the crowd. Wang Qiang died unwillingly in the end. Yang Wei looked at his boss's corpse with complicated emotions. Wang Qiang had treated him fairly well, he usually paid for his food, drinks, and entertainment, and he would also stand up for him when he was bullied. He wanted to help Wang Qiang collect his body, but there were no conditions to do so now. He could only hide Wang Qiang's body in a cabinet nearby, and then follow the group away. The cleanup work continued. The cruel lesson about the apocalypse had been deeply imprinted in the hearts of many present. The school building had been thoroughly searched. The group returned to the first floor, passed through a closed corridor connecting the two buildings, and headed towards the adjacent school building. Behind them, more and more survivors silently followed the group. Most of them were disheveled, covered in dirt and dried blood, their faces pale, their eyes sunken, and bloodshot with exhaustion and fear. Despite their unsteady gait, not one dared to slacken or fall behind. The moment they stepped into the door of the adjacent school building, a vast and incredibly tall dance hall came into view. A towering dome suspended professional stage lighting equipment, and a huge floor-to-ceiling mirror on one wall still reflected the hazy daylight streaming in from the windows, illuminating the empty interior. The hall was deserted, and there was no sign of zombies. Lin Chen looked around, estimating that the space was extremely spacious, easily accommodating 1,000 or 2,000 people. He stopped, turned, and looked at the group of survivors behind him, who were almost at their limit, sustained only by the will to survive. He said in a deep voice, "Everyone, stay here and rest. Do not leave this hall without orders." He paused, his gaze sweeping over the dance hall's entrances and exits. "I will leave people behind to maintain order and provide protection." Before he finished speaking, his gaze turned to Li Ye beside him, quickly calling out names: Xiao Yat, Ying Zhu, Ying Yu, Bison, Huang Fulan. "The five of you stay here to maintain order and security. Stay alert and keep in touch." "Okay, Brother Lin," Li Yan nodded immediately. Zhang Yingsu, Zhang Yingao, Bison, and Huang Fulan echoed in unison, quickly adjusting their positions to subtly separate the survivors from the main entrances. Chapter 37. Do you even understand the importance of respecting your teachers? Lin Chen nodded slightly to Li Ye, said nothing more, and turned to leave with his men. Their footsteps quickly disappeared at the end of the corridor. Inside the dance hall, only Li Ye and her four companions remained, along with over 1,000 survivors who were nearly crushed. Almost the instant Lin Chen's figure vanished, thump. Someone collapsed to the ground. Ha, ha. Heavy breathing echoed, like a broken bellows. Suddenly, a suppressed, soft sob came from a corner. Ugh. Then, as if this cry had pierced something, low whimpers rose from all directions. Mom, Mom. Aji is right in front of me. The cries merged into one. Someone hugged their knees, burying their face in them, their shoulders trembling violently. How could this happen? They were fine the day before yesterday. A boy next to them stared blankly at his blood-stained hands, muttering, "I locked the door, I locked Zhao King out." She was banging on the door, Banging and banging. Rain, that rain can't be touched. Another girl curled up, repeating over and over, Teacher Zhang only got a little bit wet, just a little bit, and then it changed. Outside is full of those things, full of... Someone nervously tugged at their hair. We're trapped, trapped. 2 days, a weak voice said, we haven't eaten anything for 2 days. These words were like a needle, piercing the pervasive sorrow. The crying gradually subsided, replaced by a deathly silence. Then, someone's stomach growled loudly. Immediately afterward, a second, a third, the sounds of hunger became clear in the empty hall, like a snake awakening, beginning to gnaw at everyone's nerves. Just then, a woman around 30 years old, dressed in a black dance leotard, slowly approached the twin sisters who were on guard. Even though she looked haggard, her elegant demeanor was undeniable. Are you Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu? She asked softly, her tone cautious. Zhang Yingsu looked up to recognize her. You are Teacher Su Qingyu? It's me. Teacher Su nodded quickly, licking her chapped lips, her voice almost pleading. Have you brought any food? I haven't eaten anything or drunk a drop of clean water for 2 whole days. Her gaze was fixed on the twins' bulging tactical backpacks. Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu exchanged a glance, their eyes flashing with hesitation and reluctance. They had been incredibly lucky to have met Lin Chen after the apocalypse broke out, and had never truly experienced hunger. Their supplies had always been plentiful. More importantly, they still retained a pure and innocent kindness untouched by the darkness. However, this act of kindness was quickly shattered by reality. The students and teachers nearby, upon seeing the individually wrapped packets of compressed biscuits and small bread rolls the twins had pulled out, their eyes lit up like hungry wolves. They struggled to gather around, stretching out their dirty, trembling hands. Give us some. Please. We haven't eaten for 2 days. We're all classmates, we should share this hardship. A cacophony of pleas, demands, and even veiled moral blackmail overwhelmed the twins. In the blink of an eye, the few packets of food were snatched up in the chaotic scramble. Some even pushed and shoved each other, muttering curses under their breath. The brief struggle didn't alleviate their hunger, instead, it intensified their anxiety. Some began to stare at the helpless twin sisters with dissatisfaction, disappointment, and even a hint of malice. We really have nothing left, Zhang Yingsu explained softly, looking at her empty hands, feeling a strange sense of grievance and fear. No more? Then go ask your teammates. A middle-aged female teacher with high cheekbones and gold-rimmed glasses suddenly interrupted sharply, her tone full of self-righteous accusation. Aren't you with that leader and those guys with guns? Why are you so stubborn? We're your teachers. How have we taught you? Don't you understand respect for teachers? What time is it now? If you have connections, you should help everyone find a solution. Several other men and women who looked like teachers immediately chimed in. That's right. Teacher Zheng is right. What time is it now? Why are you still distinguishing between us? You're familiar with those people, so what's wrong with putting in a good word for everyone and asking for some food and drinks? Isn't that what we should do? What have we done to teach you all this time? You have no gratitude at all. They didn't dare to face Lin Chen or Li Yu directly, but wanted to use the name of teacher-student relationship and moral obligation to transfer the pressure to 2 seemingly soft-hearted girls who had once been their students. This self-righteous, condescending attitude seemed particularly cold and ironic against a backdrop of the apocalypse. Bai Xin took it all in. She recognized that Teacher Zheng, an associate professor in the vocal music department. She had met him a few times before at school events, and he always had this air of superiority and liked to lecture. Seeing his face now, Bai Xin felt a strong sense of nausea and anger. She was a teacher herself and knew the weight of professional ethics. It was absolutely not a tool to manipulate students and seek personal gain in times of crisis. Li Yan had been standing guard not far away, witnessing the entire scene clearly. A surge of anger welled up within her. She sneered, striding forward and sweeping her gaze over the group led by Teacher Zheng. Without a hint of politeness, she sneered, "You're hungry and thirsty, but you don't dare ask those who actually have food. Instead, you hide here, using respect for teachers and teacher-student relationship to morally blackmail these 2 girls? What do you think this place is? A classroom or a charity canteen? Open your eyes and see clearly. This is the apocalypse. The law is gone, order has collapsed. Who owes you a meal? Who says they have to share their food with you? Their supplies were earned by risking their lives to kill zombies with us. They didn't fall from the sky. Her words were like hot oil poured on water. Teacher Zheng and the other teachers immediately turned ashen-faced, pointing at Li Yan, their voices rising with shame and anger. You. Disrespectful. Ingratitude. Cold-blooded and selfish. The scene instantly became chaotic and filled with tension. Chapter 38 Teacher Zheng, out of touch with reality. Enough. A clear and forceful female voice rang out, interrupting the chaotic accusations. Bai Xin walked over from her post and stood beside Li Yan and the twins, her gaze fixed on Teacher Zheng and the others. Her face was slightly flushed with excitement, but her eyes were unusually firm. Teacher Zheng, and a few other teachers, Bai Xin's voice wasn't loud, but it quieted the surroundings considerably. I'm Bai Xin, a teacher in the Fine Arts Department. I want to remind everyone, and myself as well. We're still standing here because Captain Lin and his team just risked their lives to clear this building. And they're still working hard outside to buy us more space to survive and save more people. Her gaze swept over the other survivors, her tone gentle yet clear. Everyone experiences hunger and fear. I'm hungry too, and I'm scared too. But if we lose our composure first, and use our past status and reasoning to pressure our own people, then we'll truly have no way to survive. Captain Lin left us to maintain order. I think the first step to maintaining order is to recognize reality, stay rational, and wait for them to return. Teacher Zheng had never been lectured like this before and immediately became displeased. What right do you have to talk to us like that? You're just a lecturer, and we're all professors. What right do you have to criticize us? Bai Xin scoffed. Is this a case of using status to pressure people when you can't win an argument? After she finished speaking, she stopped looking at Teacher Zheng's flushed face and nodded slightly to Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu. Her eyes held both comfort and a reminder before she retreated to her post. Bai Xin's words were like a bucket of cold water, extinguishing the blind anxiety in many hearts. Many students lowered their heads, and some teachers looked ashamed. Teacher Zheng opened her mouth to retort, but ultimately remained silent, turning her head away angrily. Just as the atmosphere was becoming tense and had begun to calm down, a cold voice rang out, "What's going on?" The voice wasn't loud, but it carried a strange penetrating power and an undeniable authority. All sounds ceased abruptly, and everyone turned around sharply, their hearts pounding in their throats. Lin Chen was standing silently in the doorway. Behind him were Su Yun and several other team members, also standing in silence. His gaze, like a blade, slowly swept across every face in the hall, whether panicked, ashamed, or still harboring resentment. Finally, it settled on Li Yan, Bai Xin, and the teachers, led by Teacher Zheng, whose expressions varied. No one noticed when he had returned. Lin Chen's figure reappeared, and all sound in the hall vanished instantly. Human nature was laid bare on the brink of life and death, bullying the weak and fearing the strong, seeking advantage and avoiding harm. While the toughness of Li Yan and the other women might have been encouraging, all their arrogance vanished when Lin Chen's colder figure appeared. His gaze swept over the teachers surrounding Li Yan. Teacher Zheng, bearing the brunt of his gaze, involuntarily took a half step back. The others who had chimed in also lowered their heads. Lin Chen didn't utter a word, walking straight into the hall. Behind him, Su Yun, Zhou Xiaomin, Zhang Jing, and other team members filed in, bringing with them a new batch of rescued survivors. The influx of people quickly filled the once empty dance hall. The number of people inside was now approaching 2,000, encompassing almost all the remaining living people in this teaching area. This art academy was known for its female dominance, and now, young women made up more than 70%, many of them beautiful. But in the dim light of the apocalypse, only a sea of pale, terrified faces remained. Lin Chen walked straight to the center of the hall, casually pulled over a scattered wooden gymnastics bench, and stood on it. His figure was infinitely replicated and extended by the huge floor-to-ceiling mirror wall, as if 1,000 troops stood behind him. Li Yan, Zhang Yingsu, Zhang Yingyu, Su Yun, Qi Wei, and others, armed, silently guarded the various entrances and exits. Listen carefully, Lin Chen said, his voice not loud, but carrying a chilling coldness. First of all, you must understand, we are not an official rescue team, and we have no obligation to save you. He paused, his gaze slowly sweeping over the dark mass of people below the stage. This is the apocalypse. Zombies roam outside, and the bloodshed has not yet ceased. We risked our lives to clean up the campus and search for survivors. We have already done our utmost. In the apocalypse, all resources are incredibly precious, especially food. It is no longer a handout that you can obtain by saying I am a teacher or respect teachers. A slight smile appeared on his lips. However, I do have food. Lots. Before he finished speaking, he casually waved his right hand. Whoosh! A small mountain of supplies suddenly appeared in the center of the hall. Compressed biscuits, canned goods, vacuum-packed cooked food, bottles of mineral water, a dazzling array, radiating an irresistible temptation to the hungry crowd. A suppressed murmur of swallowing erupted from the crowd, countless eyes ignited, filled with naked greed and desire. But intimidated by his presence, no one dared to move. But, Lin Chen's tone suddenly turned cold. If you want it, you have to offer something of value in return. It can be labor, a skill, or absolute loyalty. Don't expect anything without giving. He surveyed the room. Now, those who cannot accept these rules can leave. The doors are open. I don't tolerate short-sighted, ungrateful, and out-of-touch burdens here. The air froze. Some bowed their heads in shame, some bit their lips in resentment, some had shifty eyes. Just then, Teacher Zheng seemed to be stung by the word burden. She abruptly pushed aside the person next to her and stood up, her voice shrill and distorted with agitation and fear. If anyone's leaving, it's you. This is our school. Our territory. Who do you think you are, an outsider, daring to point fingers at us and even try to negotiate? A sliver of hope lingered in her heart. She was certain that under the watchful eyes of everyone, Lin Chen wouldn't dare do anything to highly respected associate professor. She tried to evoke a sense of shared indignation among the surrounding teachers and students. Look at him. He has so few people, and we have so many. Why should we listen to him? The school's resources should belong to all of us. However, she was met with deathly silence. Most people avoided eye contact or lowered their heads. The past 2 days of the apocalypse had been enough for many to see that numbers are sometimes meaningless in the face of true power and harsh reality. Lin Chen's face remained expressionless, as if he were merely watching a boring farce. With a cold face, he stepped down from the gymnastics bench, his step steady, and walked towards Teacher Zheng. What are you going to do? Teacher Zheng tried to remain calm, but her voice began to tremble, and she unconsciously took a step back. Chapter 39 Making an example of someone to warn others, recruiting new team members. Lin Chen approached Teacher Zheng and, without a word, his right hand gripped her neck like an iron clamp. Ha. Teacher Zheng's eyes bulged, her arrogance vanished. Only suffocating fear remained, her hands futilely clawing at Lin Chen's arm, her legs kicking wildly. Lin Chen dragged her, like a bag of trash, straight towards the main entrance of the dance hall leading outside. The crowd parted in terror, creating a path. Outside, the crimson rain continued to fall silently. Lin Chen swung his arm, throwing Teacher Zheng violently into the rain. Ah! Teacher Zheng landed on the wet ground, letting out a short scream. The cold, ominous rain instantly soaked through her clothes and hair. Terrified, she struggled to crawl back inside. Lin Chen stood at the edge of the doorway, watching her expressionlessly. Just as she was about to touch the threshold, he raised his foot and kicked her back into the rain. No. Help. I know I was wrong. Let me in. Please. Teacher Zheng cried out, rolling in the rain, her face streaked with a mixture of rain and tears. Inside the hall, over 2,000 people remained silent, every eye fixed on the gruesome scene outside. Many were deathly pale, their bodies trembling uncontrollably, especially those who had echoed her earlier. They shook like leaves, barely able to stand. Time ticked by. About 5 minutes later, Teacher Zheng's movements, struggling in the rain, began to stiffen and become grotesque. She emitted inhuman groans, her skin visibly losing color, turning bluish-gray, her pupils dilating and becoming cloudy. The zombie transformation had begun. The process was despair-inducingly fast. In less than 10 seconds, a completely new, grotesque zombie staggered to its feet from the rain of blood. A low growl, craving flesh, escaped its throat, its cloudy eyes instantly locking onto the dense food in the hall, and it charged forward with a roar. Just as it was about to pounce into the doorway, bang! A gunshot rang out, echoing through the empty corridor and hall, making everyone's eardrums ring and their hearts pound. A bloody hole exploded between the zombie's eyebrows, its forward momentum abruptly halted. It froze for a moment, then crashed to the ground, splattering a pool of blood-stained mud. Lin Chen slowly lowered the pistol, still faintly emitting gunpowder smoke, his eyes indifferent. He stepped forward, and in full view of everyone, with a wave of his hand, Teacher Zhang, or rather, the fresh zombie corpse, vanished into thin air, barely recouping some of the cost of saving someone. His tone was terrifyingly calm as he turned and walked back into the hall. The crowd instinctively pushed and retreated, wanting to get away from this decisive and ruthless man. But their escape route was firmly blocked by Li Yan, Su Yun, and the others, who were armed with guns. Fear, like a cold, venomous snake, slithered down everyone's spine. Xiaoya, remember this. Lin Chen put away his gun, his tone calm, yet every word struck a chord. In the future, when you encounter people who don't understand the situation and only know how to incite emotions and create trouble, deal with them decisively. In the apocalypse, there's not much time for reasoning. Understood, Brother Lin? Li Yan nodded, the last trace of hesitation in her eyes, born of peacetime, completely vanished. Only now did many survivors belatedly realize more details. The mountain of zombie corpses piled up at the school gate was gone. The massive container platform they had vaguely seen earlier had also disappeared, and Lin Chen could not only collect corpses out of thin air but also instantly conjure up massive amounts of supplies. They not only had guns and a ruthless leader, but also supernatural abilities. And this world was already an apocalypse where zombies roamed and rules had collapsed. Titles, status, past reasons and decency were worth less than a speck of dust in the face of absolute power and the threat to survival. Cold sweat soaked through countless backs, legs went weak, lips trembled, but no more words of doubt could be uttered. Lin Chen gestured again for Li Yan to clear the main entrance, his voice low and clear. All right, the rules have been clearly stated. Those who still cannot accept them and wish to leave can go now. This is your last chance. The crowd exchanged glances, falling into a deathly silence. Leave? Outside the door lay a deadly rain of blood and roaming zombies. Teacher Zhang's fate was right before their eyes. Stay? It meant accepting the cruel new rules, surrendering their past identity and dignity. Caught between a rock and a hard place. The silence lasted for about a minute, feeling as long as an eternity. Finally, Su Kengyu, the dance teacher who had previously begged the twins for food, suppressed her fear and broke the silence with a trembling voice. Mr. Lin, what exactly do you mean by exchange? Exchanging value for food and protection? What can we do? Lin Chen's gaze shifted, landing on Su Kengyu's pale face. Once this bloody rain stops, I will establish a shelter in Xianshu Garden. You can choose to work for me in exchange for basic food, water, and safety. The work will depend on your abilities, cleaning, construction, logistics, guard duty. Or, he paused, raising his voice to ensure everyone could hear, you can apply to join my team. Becoming a combatant or a special skills personnel offers higher pay and greater responsibility. Then, he suddenly turned to Li Yan and announced to everyone, Deputy Leader Li Yan will be fully responsible for the recruitment and initial assessment of the Apocalypse Self-Salvation Army. Those interested should contact her directly. Li Yan was slightly taken aback, then took a deep breath, suppressing the turmoil in her heart. She immediately understood Lin Chen's intention, to establish her authority. At the same time, she was entrusted with the important task of screening and integrating personnel. She quickly brought Su Yun and the twin sisters to Lin Chen's side. Lin Chen took out 2 tables and paper and pens from his space. He then looked at Bison. Bison, you go and help too. Your abilities should be useful in the screening. Bison's heart tightened, and she immediately nodded, yes. She clenched her fist, knowing what the screening task she was given meant. To use her spiritual perception to judge the sincerity and intentions of the applicants. Li Yan quickly organized the recruitment process, her voice clear and penetrating. I will explain the obligations, discipline, and benefits of joining the team one by one. But the first principle must be remembered. Her gaze swept across the queue of people. It is loyalty and obedience. If you can't do that, you can leave now. She paused briefly and threw out the most crucial information. In addition, those who join will have the opportunity to awaken their superpowers, and having superpowers will at least grant them immunity to the zombie virus. As soon as these words were spoken, the emotions in the crowd were instantly ignited. Superpowers? Immunity to viruses? Really? I'd do anything to awaken them. Whispers and exclamations spread like ripples. For ordinary people living hand to mouth under the threat of zombies, this was undoubtedly the brightest hope in the darkness. In comparison, the fear brought about by Teacher Zhang's miserable state seemed to be somewhat diluted by this intense desire. Chapter 40 Cleaning up the dormitory area. A long queue formed at the registration desk, with Li Yan and her 3 companions working in perfect harmony. Li Yan, Suyun, and the twin sisters were responsible for registering and asking various questions, while Bai Xin focused intently on discerning the truth from falsehood in the questions. Thanks to Lin Chen's earlier intimidation, the queue became much more orderly. Seeing that the recruitment was on track, Lin Chen didn't linger. He pointed to Zhou Xiaomin, Zhang Jing, and 5 others. The rest of you stay to assist. You 6, come with me. The objective was clear, the dormitory area, the crystal cores. He turned and disappeared into the shadows of the corridor, the 6 women following closely behind, their steps menacing. 10 minutes later, the 7 entered the dormitory area. The space before them opened up dramatically, a stark contrast to the closed and oppressive atmosphere of the teaching building. Dozens of zombies wandered aimlessly in the open space between the buildings, their roars echoing in the damp air. The stench of decay mixed with the stench of blood permeated every inch of the space. This time, Lin Chen didn't have his team probe, nor did he devise a tactic. He simply stopped in front of the damp open space between the buildings and slowly drew his long tang sword. The blade was drawn, a clear, low hum ringing out, its gleaming light gleaming coldly even under the gray sky. The next second, he moved. He stepped into the horde of zombies, his figure as swift as an arrow released from a bow, without the slightest hesitation or reservation. Previously, to train his team members, he had suppressed most of his strength. But now, with time pressing and the area vast, he finally shed all restraint. Possessing 4 superpowers, 3 at level 2, and 1 a rare S-rank extraordinary physique, the combined amplification of these 4 abilities meant his actual combat power was no less than that of an ordinary level 3 ability user. With the apocalypse just beginning, such strength was tantamount to crushing the slow-moving, instinct-driven level 1 zombies. The blade rose, the blade fell. The movements were both concise and ruthless. There were no fancy techniques, only the most direct killing trajectory. Those ferocious level 1 zombies fell before him like stalks of wheat in an autumn field. His speed was so fast that his figure left blurry after images in the horde of zombies. Wherever he passed, bursts of blood mist erupted. Rain quickly washed away the thick blood, as if even heaven and earth were silent before this massacre. Behind them, Zhou Xiaomin, Zhang Jing, and the other 6 girls were already dumbfounded. So, Brother Lin didn't even use his full strength before? Wang Ting murmured, her voice filled with disbelief. Ma Xiaowen's mouth was slightly open, her eyes filled with shock and an indescribable tremor. The difference is too great. Further away, inside the student dormitory building, the survivors hiding inside stared blankly through the window glass at the figure that seemed to have descended like a god or demon on the open ground below. One man, one sword, moved through dozens or even hundreds of corpses as if they were nothing. The flash of the sword and the rain of blood illuminated his cold profile, his brows furrowed with absolute confidence and control. Many girls subconsciously held their breath, their eyes following the figure involuntarily, their cheeks slightly flushed. Fear remained, but a sense of awe for absolute power, and even a secret yearning and tremor, was quietly growing. Lin Chen seemed to feel that the zombies weren't gathering fast enough, and the cleanup efficiency could still be improved. With a thought, he took out a huge speaker from his special storage, casually placed it on the roof of an abandoned car, and pressed play. The vast horizon is my love. Flowers are blooming at the foot of the rolling green hills, the deafening the most dazzling ethnic trend blared out. The highly rhythmic and penetrating square dance anthem sounded incredibly abrupt in this deathly silent apocalyptic campus, yet it also carried a kind of absurd shock. And the zombie horde, extremely sensitive to sound, surged out frantically from every corner of the dormitory building, adjacent roads, and behind any cover. The roars converged into a chilling wave of sound, and the dark horde of zombies swarmed towards the speaker, growing larger and larger, almost forming a moving wall of corpses. When the density of the zombie horde reached an astonishing level, a cold smile curled at the corner of Lin Chen's mouth. His mind raced again. Boom! A deafening roar, heavy to the extreme, suddenly erupted. The earth trembled violently. A standard blue shipping container, weighing tens of tons and over 10 meters long, appeared out of nowhere directly above the densest part of the zombie horde, crashing down with terrifying force. Thud, crack. The sickening sound of bones shattering and the muffled thuds of flesh being crushed blended together. At least 100 zombies huddled together were instantly crushed into a bloody pulp by this sudden behemoth. Blood splattered violently in a radial pattern, staining the surrounding ground, walls, and even low-hanging branches a shocking dark red. The heavy container even slightly embedded itself in the ground, revealing what lay beneath. This horrifying scene not only caused the survivors peeking from the distant dormitory building to scream in terror, but even the 6 female team members behind Lin Chen, who were already accustomed to death, couldn't help but gasp and turn pale. Wang Ting subconsciously pulled a bag of plain sunflower seeds from the side pocket of her backpack, stiffly cracked one open, and muttered, This isn't clearing out zombies, this is just a one-sided slaughter performance. Give me some too. Ma Xiaoyan next to her held out her hand, her eyes fixed on Lin Chen's back as he once again charged into the sparser horde of zombies. Seeing this, the others also gathered around. In the blink of an eye, the 6 of them had formed a small circle, eating sunflower seeds in the blood-soaked, corpse-strewn open space of the dormitory area. The scene was utterly absurd, yet it truly reflected their current predicament. Faced with an absolute difference in strength, the combat skills and teamwork they had previously trained seemed completely useless, and they had truly become spectators. Lin Chen's figure, against a backdrop of blood rain, flashing blades, and absurd background music, appeared even more powerful, mysterious, and even possessed a deadly attraction. He was tall and straight, his movements as swift as the wind, raindrops dripping down his sharply defined jawline. The composure and strength emanating from that cold demeanor had an irresistible impact on the women in dire straits, yearning for protection. Having just cleared the last dense horde of zombies attracted by the sound system, Lin Chen sheathed his sword and looked back, just in time to see his 6 teammates leisurely munching on sunflower seeds. What are you looking at? He called out, his tone slightly annoyed. Hurry up and lure out the scattered zombies in the distance and those possibly hiding in the dormitories. Can't you see this area is almost cleared out? Oh. Coming right away. The 6 women snapped out of their daze, hurriedly stuffing the sunflower seeds back into their pockets, their faces slightly flushed. Embarrassed at being caught, they quickly dispersed, running towards more distant areas and the dark entrances to the dormitory buildings. From then on, the division of labor was clear. The 6 women would lure out the remaining zombies hiding deep within buildings or in corners, while Lin Chen would focus on killing them, clearing them out quickly with overwhelming strength. Chapter 41. The team grows larger, a new temporary residence. 2 hours later, the dormitory area, which had been filled with the constant roars of zombies, became deathly silent. Lin Chen casually wiped the blood off his tang sword in the rain and sheathed it. He then walked to the pile of corpses, scanned them with his mind, and stored each zombie body into his ability space. Seeing that he had finished cleaning, Wang Ting and the others immediately ran over to him, their faces still flushed with excitement from watching the battle, their eyes eager. Brother Lin, are you tired? You've been killing for so long, are your shoulders sore? Do you want me to massage them? Wang Ting's voice was softer than usual. Let me massage your legs. You've been standing and exerting force the whole time. Ma Xiaoyan also stepped forward. The others also chimed in, all wanting to find something to do, to prove they weren't just useless spectators. Lin Chen looked at their chattering and eagerness to perform, feeling both amused and helpless. He casually patted the buttocks of Wang Ting and Ma Xiaoyan, who were closest to him. The gesture was casual and natural, even carrying a hint of teasing. All right, stop fooling around. I'm fine, he said. This slap made the 2 girls freeze instantly, their cheeks flushing crimson like ripe apples, even their ears turning pink. They lowered their heads, not daring to look at him. The other girls also paused, their eyes darting around, the atmosphere suddenly becoming subtly ambiguous. Lin Chen realized his casual gesture seemed somewhat frivolous. However, he was thick-skinned and had a composure far beyond the average person, showing no embarrassment whatsoever. Just then, dormitory windows upstairs were pushed open one after another, countless students excitedly shouting downstairs, Big brother! Hero! Save us! Take us away! There's no food here! Please! The voices were filled with despair and longing. Lin Chen stopped and looked up at the young faces behind the windows. He said in a deep voice, the blood rain hasn't stopped. You're at risk of infection if you come into contact with it, so I can't take you away. However, he raised his voice, I will build a shelter in the Xianshu Garden Villa area. Once this rain stops, you can go there to find your own way to survive. He then said nothing more, ignoring the cries and pleas behind him. Leading his 6 team members, He turned and walked quickly towards the school's office area. Afterward, they also raided the adjacent faculty and staff quarters. After Lin Chen casually killed the last wandering zombie, large-scale zombie hordes were no longer seen within the entire art academy. The group trudged through the slippery surface and returned to the dance hall in the teaching building. The hall was brightly lit, and the crowd was more orderly than when they left. Leah was standing in the center, speaking to a group of neatly arranged young women. Seeing Lin Chen return, Leah immediately stepped forward. "Brother Lin, the initial screening and statistics are complete. A total of 158 people meet the recruitment criteria and are willing to join. Among them, 148 are students and 10 are teachers." She turned to the side and gestured to the somewhat unusual team behind her. It was a group of young women, mostly between 18 and 30 years old. Some were elegant and refined, some were bright and beautiful, some were gentle and intellectual, and some were full of energy, but without exception, they were all quite good-looking. Standing together, they gave off a feeling of a talent show. After Leah finished reporting, Lin Chen's gaze swept over the group of young women, and a slight smile appeared on his lips. Sure enough, Leah understood him well. Seeing Lin Chen's reaction, Zhang Yingsu, Zhang Yingyu, and Su Yun were first taken aback. Then, looking at this army of women, they suddenly understood something, and their expressions became subtle. Baizen stood a little further away, her gaze thoughtfully shifting between the group and Lin Chen. Several girls almost simultaneously thought the same thing. Men, they're all such jerks. They don't say it, but their actions speak louder than words. Baizen, who had a sensory ability, was speechless at Lin Chen's brooding behavior. However, the satisfied look on Lin Chen's face didn't last long. He quickly frowned slightly. The people had been chosen. But what next? How to safely bring them back to Xianshu Garden? The villain needed time to be cleared out one by one. He actually had a very simple solution, the internal space of the Hongmeng Creation Pearl. But, revealing this biggest trump card now was far from the right time. Mainly because his current strength was insufficient. If it were leaked, it might attract endless greed and attacks. Just as he was frowning and deep in thought, Leah quietly walked to his side and accompanied Lin Chen to the corridor outside the hall. "Brother Lin," Leah said softly, her voice filled with knowing concern, "are you considering how to safely bring these people back, and how to initially settle them?" Lin Chen paused and turned to look at her. In the dim light, Leah's eyes sparkled. He couldn't help but laugh, reaching out to affectionately pinch her nose. "You really know me inside and out." Ugh, Leah wrinkled her nose in disgust. "How disgusting. I'm Brother Lin's sweet little cotton-padded jacket, okay? Okay, my little cotton-padded jacket." Lin Chen laughed heartily. "Tell me, have you already thought of a solution for me?" Leah's eyes were clear, and she lowered her voice. "Brother Lin, do you remember the Tinglan 5-star hotel we passed on the way here? It's less than 2 kilometers from here. The main building has 15 floors, the structure is sturdy, there are plenty of rooms, the location is independent, the surrounding area is open, and it's easy to guard." Lin Chen's eyes flickered slightly. "You mean?" "Yes." Leah nodded. "There's still more than an hour until dark. We've cleared most of the zombies on the main road, so the road conditions are relatively clear. We can temporarily settle these people at the Tinglan Hotel. The facilities there are intact. It provides shelter from the rain, and it's enclosed. Once the blood rain stops, we'll also have time to thoroughly clean up Xianshu Garden before relocating them all at once. This solves the immediate resettlement problem and provides a buffer period, allowing us to further observe these people's character and behavior. The hotel supplies can also be utilized." Her reasoning was clear and thorough. "Good idea." Lin Chen no longer hesitated. With a creation crystal, he wasn't worried about loyalty at all. It was just that Leah didn't understand, yet she still thought of these things, which was truly rare. He gave her an appreciative look. "Let's do it your way." The operation immediately commenced. He walked back to the entrance of the dance hall, his thoughts flashing. Buzz! A large silver school bus appeared out of thin air in the square in front of the teaching building and came to a steady stop. Then came the second, the third. Subsequently, 13 black business vans also appeared one after another, neatly arranged. A murmur of alarm rose again in the hall. The drivers quickly gathered. Lin Chen swiftly organized the boarding. The vehicles drove to an exit sheltered by eaves, where Li Yat and the twins organized the 158 women to board in an orderly fashion. Lin Chen sat on the first bus, with Li Yan bringing up the rear. Bison, Suyun, Josiamin, and other team members were scattered across the various vehicles, providing escort and security. The convoy slowly drove away from the Art Academy, heading towards the Tinglin Hotel, 2 kilometers away. Before leaving, he left some food and water for the remaining survivors and offered his suggestion to go to Xianshu Garden after the blood rain stopped. He wasn't stingy with this investment. It was beneficial to make these potential future labor force owe him a debt of gratitude for the life-saving food and water. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 42 Saved a Big Star. The convoy rolled across the wet asphalt, tires kicking up fine sprays of water. The blood-red rain pattered against the windows, a monotonous, continuous thud, as if the heavens themselves were whispering a somber rhythm to this miraculous migration. 10 minutes later, the Tinglin Hotel appeared in the rain. Lin Chen brought the bus to a steady stop under the white eaves of the main entrance and jumped off first. His sharp gaze swept across the slightly disheveled yet still imposing lobby, where several zombies dressed in security guard uniforms or hotel work clothes were wandering aimlessly. He drew his tang sword, and with a few swift thrusts and slashes, eliminated the threat. After collecting the corpses and confirming the lobby was temporarily safe, he signaled for the passengers to disembark, then stored the empty bus away from his storage space. The other vehicles followed, and under the organization of Li Yan, Suyun, and others, everyone entered the hotel lobby in an orderly fashion, avoiding the blood-red rain outside. A faint musty smell filled the air, mixed with the distinctive scent of upscale hotels, a blend of aromatherapy and cleaning agents. However, at this moment, a subtle, almost imperceptible stench of decay lingered within. Lin Chen approached the front desk, rummaged around for a moment, and pulled a heavy bunch of room keys and keycards from a drawer. "Go to the top floor, it's relatively easier to defend there," his voice echoed in the empty lobby. Li walked at the back of the group, her eyes warily scanning the passageways and security doors behind and to the sides. The group ascended the thickly carpeted fire escape staircase. Any zombies that peeked out were immediately killed. The Tinglin Hotel had 15 floors. The top 2 floors housed the expensive presidential suites and deluxe suites. Perhaps because the apocalypse occurred outside of peak tourist season or a major conference period, the entire building was unusually quiet, even unrealistically empty. But this silence was all the more unsettling, because you never knew which tightly closed door might suddenly unleash a deadly threat. The clearing of the 15th floor went relatively smoothly, encountering only a few zombies dressed in black suits, possibly bodyguards or businessmen who had mutated. Lin Chen handled them without any pressure. When he pushed open the door to the presidential suite at the end of the corridor, the one with the best view and the largest room, the scene that greeted him made him pause slightly. The suite's living room was a mess, the coffee table overturned, and vases shattered. A female zombie dressed in a business suit, her hair disheveled, was frantically ramming her body and scratching at the solid wood door of the bedroom inside. Urgent hoarse sounds came from her throat, and her nails scraped against the door panel with a harsh sound. There was someone in the bedroom. The female zombie noticed the movement behind her and turned around abruptly. Her grayish-white, cloudy eyes instantly locked onto Lin Chen and the others, and with a roar, she lunged at them, baring her teeth and claws. Lin Chen's expression remained unchanged. He raised his hand and pulled the trigger of the pistol he had already been holding. Bang! The gunshot sounded particularly abrupt in the luxurious suite. The bullet pierced the zombie's forehead, halting its forward momentum as it fell backward. Lin Chen stepped over the corpse and walked to the tightly closed bedroom door. He listened intently. All was silent. He raised his hand and tapped lightly on the smooth door with his knuckles. "Is anyone there? It's safe now, you can come out." His voice was calm, devoid of much emotion. There was no response from inside. He knocked twice more, slightly increasing the force. "We're alive, the zombies outside are dealt with." Still, an unsettling silence. Lin Chen frowned, then, without hesitation, took a half step back and kicked the door near the lock. Bang! The sturdy door swung open, crashing heavily against the inner wall. The bedroom was dimly lit, the heavy curtains drawn. A figure stood stiffly beside the bed, clutching a heavy decorative vase tightly in her hand, her knuckles white from the force. It was a woman. She wore only a thin, burgundy silk slip dress, revealing large expanses of fair skin and the beautiful lines of her collarbones. Her long hair was disheveled and draped over her shoulders, her face was as pale as paper, and her eyes and the tip of her nose were slightly red, clearly indicating that she had been in a state of extreme tension and fear for a long time. However, all of this could not conceal her stunning beauty. Her features were exquisitely sculpted, as if by a master craftsman, her eyebrows and eyes like a painting. Even in her disheveled and terrified state, she was still breathtakingly beautiful, with a stunning beauty that transcended reality. When she saw that the people who had broken in were a group of living people, and that, apart from the cold-faced man with a gun at the head, almost all of those who followed were women, the woman's tense shoulders relaxed imperceptibly for a moment. The hand that had been tightly gripping the vase also lowered slightly, as if finally unloading a huge burden, but her eyes still retained wariness and confusion. "Are you a rescue team?" Her voice was soft, trembling with the relief of surviving a disaster, and a faint glimmer of hope. Lin Chen shook his head, calmly scrutinizing her. "No. Who are you?" The woman paused, seemingly surprised that he neither revealed his identity nor offered reassurance, but instead directly asked a question. She pursed her bloodless lips and whispered, "Liu Fifei." "Liu Fifei?" Lin Chen frowned slightly. The name seemed familiar, almost like something he'd heard before. But after the apocalypse, he was busy stockpiling supplies, and his memories from before his rebirth intertwined with his experiences in this life, so he couldn't immediately make a connection. Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu, however, both brightened up. Zhang Yingyu couldn't help but lean closer to Lin Chen's ear, excitedly whispering, "Brother Lin. It's Liu Fifei. That national fairy. Super popular. She acted in Star River Dream and Spring Confession. You forgot? There are still billboards advertising her at the subway entrance." Lin Chen then realized, oh, that celebrity. Before the apocalypse, her posters and videos were indeed everywhere. She was hailed as a rising star with both beauty and acting skills. Having been reborn, all his thoughts were focused on survival, strategizing, and improving his strength. He had no time to pay attention to the glitz and glamour of the screen. Now, even the most dazzling stars were just survivors in need of protection in this apocalyptic world. "Why are you here alone?" Lin Chen's tone softened slightly, but remained direct. Liu Fifei seemed unaccustomed to this lack of pleasantries. But she still answered honestly, "I came to Guangzhou to film a new movie. I finished work late the day before yesterday, and slept in yesterday morning. I had just woken up and wanted to go to the living room for a drink of water when I saw my manager, Sister Zhang. She was acting strangely. She lunged at me. I was terrified and could only run back to my bedroom and lock the door. I've been hiding ever since." As she finished speaking, her eyes welled up with tears, the pent-up fear and helplessness finally turning into tears that silently streamed down her pale cheeks. But she immediately turned her head away, biting her lower lip hard, stubbornly refusing to cry out, her shoulders trembling slightly. Lin Chen was speechless. The reasons for surviving in this apocalypse are truly bizarre. Who would have thought that a highly sought-after female celebrity, surrounded by admirers, could survive simply by sleeping in, thus avoiding the initial, most chaotic outbreak? He didn't offer any words of comfort, only briefly instructing Suyun beside him, "Suyun, stay here with her for a while, let her calm down." At the same time, he conveniently stored the corpse of Sister Zhang in the living room into a special storage to avoid upsetting Liu Fifei. Chapter 43 Group Awakening Abilities. Lin Chen turned and disappeared down the corridor with several team members, heading downstairs. For the next 15 minutes, short gunshots and the muffled thuds of zombies falling echoed from the 13th to the 15th floors. The process was fraught with danger, but they managed to rescue over a dozen people from various corners, a trembling waiter hiding in the cleaning room, an elderly couple supporting each other, a child huddled in a closet. Facing these terrified faces, Lin Chen rarely spoke. He simply stood there, occasionally tapping unconsciously on his holster, or casting his gaze towards the ceaseless rain of blood outside the window. No words were needed. The weight of reality hung in everyone's hearts. Soon, all the newly rescued people voluntarily gathered on the cleared 13th floor. Lin Chen used shelves and heavy objects retrieved from his special storage to block the main passageway leading downstairs, and managed to jam the elevator car at the ground floor. The 13th floor and above temporarily became an easily defensible island. Only after doing this did he return to the 15th floor. In the presidential suite area, Li Yat and the twins were busy arranging accommodations, trying to place familiar people next to each other. Suyun accompanied Liu Fifei out of the bedroom. Liu Fifei had changed into a slightly oversized tracksuit, her long hair tied in a ponytail, her face bare of makeup, the shock still lingering in her eyes, but her expression was much calmer. "Brother Lin," Suyun said softly, "Miss Liu wants to come with us." Lin Chen looked at Liu Fifei. Her eyes were firm, her face pleading. More importantly, her aura was pure, not like someone with ulterior motives. "We are not an official rescue team, we have no obligation to take anyone with us." Lin Chen's tone was calm but serious. "If you come with us, you must follow the rules, face the battle, and contribute your strength. Most importantly, loyalty, never betrayal." Liu Fifei nodded vigorously, her voice soft and clear. "I know. I have nowhere else to go." For the past 2 days, she had hidden in her room, dialing her parents' numbers again and again. Busy tone. Always busy tone. Her father was a well-known businessman in Shanghai, and that family background had been her foundation in the entertainment industry, allowing her to say no to unspoken rules and rise to the spotlight step by step through her work. But now, her fame, resources, and connections had all vanished in the face of zombies and bloodshed. She realized with a clear head that she was now just an ordinary girl, unarmed and unsure if she would even open her eyes again tomorrow. Lin Chen silently watched her for a few seconds, then nodded. "Okay. Welcome to the team." The simple 4 words were like the most effective tranquilizer. Liu Fifei's eyes welled up with tears, but she desperately held back, only managing a heavy Lin Chen turned to Li Yang. "Zioya, gather everyone in the lobby on the 15th floor when it's almost time. It's time to get down to business." "Okay." Li Yang immediately understood and turned to go downstairs. 10 minutes later, in a spacious banquet hall on the 15th floor, all 158 people rescued by the Art Academy, along with the newly joined Liu Fifei and the core team members, had arrived. The brief rest had faded the fear on many faces, replaced by a bewildered anticipation. Lin Chen stepped forward, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. His voice was steady and powerful. "I promised you before, I would give you the opportunity to change your fate and gain the ability to protect yourselves. Now, I will fulfill that promise." A suppressed commotion arose in the hall. Whispers mingled with surprise and trepidation. Lin Chen's mind stirred, and he took out 159 creation crystals emitting a soft, shimmering light from his special storage. The crystals were translucent, with a milky white halo flowing within, mysterious and beautiful. This was most of his accumulated stockpile, and he was giving it all away this time. "Line up, 1 crystal each, swallow them directly," Lin Chen said succinctly. "There may be some unusual sensations during the process, don't panic, keep your mind calm." The line quickly formed under Li Ya's direction. Every pair of eyes was fixed on the crystals, their breathing quickening involuntarily. The first to step forward was Yi Qingyu, another famous beauty from the Art Academy, majoring in the Guzhen, with a cool and aloof temperament. Her slender hands trembled slightly as she received the warm crystal from Lin Chen. Her heart pounded with anxiety, terrified that she had awakened a useless superpower. Yesterday, trapped in the teaching building, she had witnessed Lin Chen's figure traversing the horde of zombies through the window, the shock and longing deeply etched into her heart. She understood, in the apocalypse, beauty might offer temporary convenience, but only one's own strength was the most solid reliance for survival. The spirit crystal melted instantly upon entering her mouth, transforming into a warm and powerful current that surged through her limbs and bones. The feeling wasn't pain, but an indescribable comfort, as if every cell was joyfully rejoicing, gently cleansed and reshaped by a soft yet powerful force. A moment later, a strange phenomenon occurred. The air around Yi Qingyu slightly distorted, and several translucent strings, seemingly woven from light, materialized out of thin air in front of her. The strings trembled slightly, and without plucking, a clear and ethereal sound wave naturally rippled out, carrying a peculiar rhythm that instantly soothed the mind of those who heard it. "Wow!" Zhang Yingyu couldn't help but exclaim, "Void condensation. That's so cool." Yi Qingyu slowly opened her eyes, her gaze filled with unbelievable surprise. With a slight thought, she gently plucked a string of light, and a tiny crack appeared in the glass on the distant table. A-level ability, Sonic Slaughter. She felt the information naturally appear in her mind, her voice trembling slightly. It can condense spiritual power into a sound string, controlling sound waves of specific frequencies for attacks. The range and intensity are related to mental strength. She subconsciously looked at Lin Chen, her eyes filled with gratitude, and a quiet, almost devout trust and sense of belonging. It was he who gave her the spark to ignite her own light in this dark world. Not bad. Lin Chen nodded. Sonic abilities have considerable potential. Witnessing Yu Qingyu successfully awaken such a dazzling ability, the crowd erupted in cheers. Anxiety was replaced by ecstasy, expectations soared, and confidence spread like wildfire. When it was Liu Fifei's turn, Lin Chen also handed over a spirit crystal. Liu Fifei took a deep breath, solemnly accepted the pill, and swallowed it. She closed her eyes and waited, her eyelashes casting faint shadows on her pale cheeks. A moment later, she suddenly opened her eyes. In that instant, a deep starlight seemed to flow through her originally bright eyes, making them even more dazzling and captivating. She stared intently at Lin Chen, her eyes flashing with indescribable shock and excitement. "Sister Fifei, what kind of ability is it?" Zhang Yingyu asked excitedly in a low voice. Liu Fifei calmed herself down, trying to keep her voice calm, but she couldn't hide her pride and surprise. S-level mind control. She paused, carefully sensing the information in her mind. It can simultaneously influence or control the thoughts and behaviors of multiple targets. The intensity, number, and duration of control depend on the strength of my mental power and the target's willpower. Currently, the initial feeling is, controlling ordinary people or low-level zombies is easier, but the effect is weaker on those with strong willpower or powerful creatures, requiring further testing. S-level. Mind control. These two words silenced the surroundings instantly, followed by an even greater burst of astonishment. Countless gazes focused on Liu Fifei, filled with envy, awe, and a hint of barely perceptible apprehension. Mind control, in the apocalypse, was undoubtedly a terrifying yet incredibly useful top-tier superpower. A flicker of surprise crossed Lin Chen's eyes, quickly turning into admiration. This was undoubtedly an unexpected delight, and would become a significant trump card for the team's future. The awakening ceremony continued, light flashing intermittently among the crowd, accompanied by gasps and exclamations. Each person, after consuming a spirit crystal, faced a turning point in their destiny. Hope, like a torch lit in the darkness, burned ever brighter in the temporarily safe hotel lobby. Lin Chen stood calmly at the front, watching this rapidly transforming team. Chapter 44 Team Reorganization, Creation Pearl upgrades again. Amidst cheers and jubilation, Lin Chen stroked his chin, lost in thought. The creation crystal, it can actually awaken an S-rank ability directly? Liu Fifei had become the first S-rank ability user he had personally witnessed and created since his rebirth. In his previous life, he had never heard the name Liu Fifei among the top experts or in any major events. Perhaps she died young in bloodshed and chaos, perhaps she survived by chance but always hid herself, never revealing her talents, or perhaps it was this creation crystal that quietly rewrote this woman's potentially bleak trajectory? Just as his thoughts were churning, a gentle yet clear message appeared in his mind. The creation crystal guarantees at least an A-rank ability awakening. The manifestation of higher-level abilities stems from the user's own latent talent and soul essence. The crystal only serves to stimulate and guide. This message instantly resolved his doubts. "Hey, are you awake already?" Lin Chen suppressed his surging thoughts, trying to ask deep within his heart, with a hint of expectation. That mysterious and unpredictable primordial creation bead, bound to his soul since his rebirth, could its consciousness have awakened? However, the bead left only this explanation before falling silent once more. It remained like an unchanging star, silently suspended in the void of his soul, offering no further response. But Lin Chen's heart was resolute. What he had just experienced was neither an illusion nor a mechanical rule prompt. He didn't delve deeper, suppressing his surging thoughts. When the last person finished absorbing and their light gradually faded, the entire 15th floor hall seemed to be completely illuminated by an invisible yet vibrant hope. The air was filled with excitement, joy, and the faint fluctuations of newly born power. 159 people, without a single failure, all successfully awakened their abilities. The lowest level was a promising A grade, while only Liu Fifei achieved S grade. Over 100 gazes were now focused on Lin Chen. The composition of those gazes had completely changed. The initial fear, probing, and fawning had faded away in a very short time. It transformed into genuine trust, natural warmth, and a subtle dependence. "Alright, it's getting late," Lin Chen said softly. "Everyone should get some rest. Having just acquired your abilities, your bodies and minds need time to adjust. We'll discuss how to use and improve them tomorrow. We'll take it slow." His words were both an instruction and a reassurance. Although their emotions were still running high, the fear, hunger, and exhaustion of the past 2 days washed over them like a tidal wave. Soon, with the coordination of Li Yan, Suyun, and others, everyone found temporary beds and settled down. The presidential suite, though spacious, was still crowded with so many people. Lin Chen calmly took out many brand new mattresses, blankets, bottled water, and ample food from his storage space, ensuring everyone had a place to lie down, water to drink, and no empty stomachs. This meticulous arrangement further strengthened everyone's sense of belonging. The exhausted girls, in a relatively safe environment with basic survival guarantees, quickly tidied themselves up and fell into deep sleep almost as soon as their heads hit the pillow. Many even wore a slight smile of relief. This was the first time since the blood rain had fallen that they could let down their guard and sleep so peacefully. Suyun took the initiative to lead Zhou Xiamen and Zhang Jing to the corridor room on the 14th floor to stand guard. Lin Chen and Li Ya chose a suite near the stairwell on the 15th floor. As for the presidential suite where Liu Fifei was, the twins Zhang Yingsu and Zhang Yingyu squeezed in with smiles, claiming they were keeping Fifei company. In reality, their big eyes were sparkling, reflecting the dual curiosity and admiration of reuniting with their idol and facing an S-level superhuman. "Fifei, I loved watching your dramas in high school. I even had posters on my bedside. You're even more beautiful in person than on camera." Liu Fifei had debuted early and had seen many such fans. Facing the two enthusiastic girls of similar age, she forced a smile in return, but her mind was unusually clear. In this apocalyptic purgatory, the past stardom and fan adoration were as light as dust, and might even become a burden. To be alive, accepted, and to gain such immense power was already a great blessing from fate. In Lin Chen's suite, only he and Li Ye remained. The door was closed, isolating them from the outside world. Li Ye naturally leaned against him, her soft body nestled close. No words were needed. The tacit understanding born from sharing life and death and entrusting each other's backs had already connected their hearts in countless moments of fighting side by side. After a moment of tenderness and intimacy, the two washed away their fatigue and dust. At this moment, Li Ya lay quietly on his firm chest, her breathing even and long, as if she had fallen asleep. Only the occasional trembling of her eyelashes revealed that she was not completely asleep, a state of relaxation. Lin Chen, though his eyes were closed, was conscious and busy. His consciousness sank into the inner space of the primordial creation pearl, like a diligent gardener, moving in the corpses of the zombies he had cleaned up throughout the art academy and killed in the hotel. The roots of the world tree, seemingly possessing life and perception, gently reached out and softly wrapped around the lifeless corpses. In just 3 breaths, a zombie corpse was completely absorbed, and Lin Chen then sent the absorbed corpse back into his ability space. He would dispose of it later when the opportunity arose. Following the pattern he had previously discovered, he had invested a total of about 10,000 zombie corpses today. The moment the last corpse was completely transformed and absorbed, a gentle information fluctuation came, naturally flowing into Lin Chen's heart. Primordial creation pearl, bound to host soul, current level, level 4, potential development, can consume energy to randomly develop a new S-rank ability. Ability sublimation, can accumulate 1 targeted enhancement opportunity every 7 days. This opportunity can be consumed to directly enhance any existing ability by 1 level. This function shares a cooldown with potential development, and only 1 can be chosen per cycle. Foundation of the world, the pearl already contains the seed of the basic laws of the new world, and its internal space has currently stably expanded to 400 square kilometers, approximately the area of 2 Yangcheng urban areas. Creation spring, daily production of creation crystals. 100, after use. It can awaken at least to grade A ability and become loyal to the host. New addition, life spring, beginner, daily production of life crystals. 1, after use, it can improve the level of life essence, enhance basic physique, lifespan potential, energy affinity, and become loyal to the host. Current effect limit, grade S life form, level restriction, the host's own highest ability level cannot exceed the current level of the primordial creation pearl. Lin Chen subconsciously glanced at the fluorescent hands of the antique wall clock. 23:13. Finally. I completed the upgrade before the midnight refresh. His consciousness also looked into the space. Sure enough, with the upgrade, the space range once again ushered in an exponential expansion. The terrain that could only be called ditches and slopes in the past has now transformed into a babbling clear stream and undulating lush hills. The light between heaven and earth seems brighter and softer, and the air is fresher. A nascent world quietly dwells in the depths of his soul. With a thought, he carefully stored away the 100 creation crystals that had just appeared after the upgrade that day. Then, his attention fell on a newly appeared crystal, similar in texture to the creation crystals but with a completely different aura. It radiated a warm, milky white light, its interior seemingly pulsating with life, warm to the touch, and even more comforting and peaceful than the creation crystals. Lin Chen's consciousness gently grasped this life crystal, carefully sensing the peculiar fluctuations flowing within. Life level, essential improvement, he murmured to himself, lost in thought. Does it affect lifespan? Regeneration? Basic attributes? Or something more fundamental, like expanding evolutionary potential? Some guesses based on his past life's experiences and his understanding of this life began to surface and collide in his mind. This newly appeared crystal might signify a more profound and fundamental path of enhancement than simply granting supernatural abilities. Chapter 45 The Effects of Life Crystals, Li Ya's Shock. After a long while, Lin Chen slowly regained his composure, his consciousness returning to his physical body. He felt the warm, real weight of the woman in his arms. He looked down at Li Ya's peaceful sleeping face. Her eyes were closed, her usual decisiveness gone, making her appear exceptionally soft. Unconsciously, Lin Chen's fingertips lifted, gently brushing aside a few stray strands of hair from her forehead, the movement as light as touching morning dew. After a moment, he softly called, "Xiao Yan." Li Ya's eyelashes fluttered, and she slowly opened her eyes. The hazy feeling of just waking up lasted only a moment before clearing into a bright mirror, reflecting his face. She showed no displeasure at being disturbed, her eyes held only complete trust and relaxation. She was even unaware that the thin blanket, slightly slipping as she sat up, revealed a glimpse of her skin. That openness had already transcended ordinary boundaries. Lin Chen presented her with the life crystal he had been holding in his palm. It was warm and smooth as jade, shimmering with a milky white light. He simply said, "Eat this." No explanation, no elaboration, as if it were the most natural thing in the world. Li Ya didn't hesitate either. She took the spirit crystal, her fingertips touching a gentle yet vibrant life force. She brought it to her lips, and the crystal instantly transformed into a clear, sweet, warm current, sliding down her throat and quickly spreading throughout her body. The next moment, an indescribable sense of relief appeared on her face. It was as if a hot spring had welled up from the depths of her soul, cleansing every inch of her meridians, every cell. The fatigue and tension accumulated over the past few days were quietly dispelled, even her bones seemed to resonate lightly. Her breathing became longer and deeper, and a faint, vibrant aura emanated from her body. About 5 minutes later, she suddenly opened her eyes shone brightly, as if infused with flowing starlight. She hugged Lin Chen tightly and gave him a loud kiss on the cheek. "Brother Lin, my ability has reached S rank." Her voice trembled slightly with excitement. Not long ago, a faint longing for Liu Fei's S rank ability had flickered in her heart. And now, this surprise came so suddenly. S rank? Lin Chen smiled, his eyes brimming with satisfaction and pride. "Congratulations." He simultaneously understood, indeed, the level of life is the foundation for carrying abilities. Improving the essence of life is to broaden the capacity and quality of the container, allowing the water within, the ability, to naturally reach a higher level. The value of the life crystal was confirmed at this moment. In his previous life, every S-rank powerhouse was enough to support a force. Now, with it, he could cultivate more reliable high-level combat power. The future landscape was already different. He hugged the overjoyed Li Ya tighter, his chin gently brushing against the top of her head, his voice lowered, carrying a solemn tenderness. "Xiaoya, I'll take you somewhere, a place that belongs only to us, a place that concerns our future." "Okay." She didn't ask where or how to get there, but simply stood up briskly, dressed, her movements fluid and natural. Lin Chen also quickly tidied himself up. Just as Li Ya reached for the doorknob, her wrist was gently pulled. She turned around, a hint of confusion in her eyes. "No need to go out," Lin Chen explained, then pulled Li Ye into his arms. With a thud, he appeared beside the creation tree, but Li Ye didn't come in. Lin Chen was bewildered. He couldn't bring anyone with him? He looked up at the calves grazing peacefully in the distance, as if remembering something. Back in the hotel room, Li Ye was still looking around in confusion. Seeing Lin Chen reappear, she calmed down and complained, "What happened? Brother Lin, why did you suddenly leave me alone?" Lin Chen didn't explain, but wrapped his arms around her waist again, pulling her into his embrace. His voice was close to her ear, "Close your eyes, completely relax, don't have any distracting thoughts or resistance." Li Ye was slightly startled, then closed her eyes, leaning completely into his arms. "I'm ready." Lin Chen focused his mind, his consciousness sinking into the depths of his sea of consciousness. The primordial creation pearl responded to the call, slowly rotating, and mysterious ripples spread throughout the room. The two figures faded away silently amidst the ripples in the air, until all was still. When she opened her eyes again, she found herself in a completely different world. "You can open your eyes now," Lin Chen's voice sounded beside her, carrying a hint of barely perceptible anticipation. It seemed that those who entered had to have a pure mind, free from any distracting thoughts. Li Ye opened her eyes as instructed, her breath catching in her throat. The air was incredibly fresh, filled with the fragrance of earth, grass, pond water, and some kind of pure energy. The light was soft and bright, like a spring morning, yet the sun and moon were nowhere to be seen. Then, she completely lost the ability to speak. Before her lay a vast, tranquil, and vibrant world. Beneath her feet stretched a soft, thick, verdant meadow that reached the horizon. In the distance, undulating blue hills rose like waves, with a winding stream. Closer still, in the center stood the most awe-inspiring, towering giant tree, its trunk so thick that several people would need to encircle it, nearly 100 meters tall, its entire body shimmering with a faint purple aura, its branches and leaves like a canopy, within which seemed to flow with galaxies. Ancient, sacred, and brimming with life. Beside the tree, a spiritual pool the size of a basketball court, clear as jade, shrouded in a misty haze, exuding a refreshing fragrance, simply standing there brought a sense of tranquility. She stood there, stunned, her lips slightly parted, her gaze almost greedily taking in everything. Was this a fairyland? Or a dream? Lin Chen stood quietly beside her, watching her shocked profile, feeling no pride, only calm. Bringing her in was a decision he had carefully considered. Li Ye's talent, temperament, and loyalty were all impeccable. And his subsequent plans regarding spatial development, power building, and crisis response all required a core assistant who fully understood his intentions. She was a good choice. Woof woof. A cheerful bark broke the silence. A glossy, robust country dog came galloping from the grassy slope, circling around Lin Chen, its tail wagging like a windmill. In the distance, several pigs, sheep, and cows strolled leisurely, grazing freely. After the spatial expansion, these creatures that had been transferred in earlier finally had a place to run freely. This vibrant scene brought Li Ye back to her senses. She bent down and rubbed the dog's head, and the dog affectionately licked her palm. She smiled, picked it up, and looked at Lin Chen with eyes as bright as starlight. "Brother Lin, where exactly is this?" Lin Chen walked to her side, looked at the distant mountains and rivers, and said calmly, "This is an independent space. It exists based on my soul, but in essence, it is independent of Blue Star, and may even be independent of the rules of the universe as we know them." He paused. Initially, it was only the size of a basketball court. By absorbing energy, mainly zombie crystal cores, it began to grow. These trees, this water, these mountains and grasslands, all evolved on their own. Now, the area here is close to the size of 2 Yangcheng districts. His tone gradually deepened, carrying a clear sense of worry and planning. The blood rain outside doesn't know when it will stop, and even if it does stop, the water and soil of Blue Star have long been polluted. No matter how much resources we collect, we'll eventually run out. Humanity needs clean water, safe food, and unpolluted habitats. He withdrew his gaze and looked intently into her eyes. "I want to make this place our true foundation. A self-sufficient, thriving, and sheltered place from the storms of the outside world, the starting point of a new world." He held her hand, his palm warm and strong. "This space will continue to grow, and it will need people to plan, build, and manage it. My energy is limited. Xiaoya, I need you, not only to fight outside, but also to help me lay the foundation for our future here. Are you willing? Leah felt a surge of warmth flow from her heart to her entire body. She put down the dog, and without hesitation, stepped forward and tightly took his arm, nodding vigorously. Her voice was slightly choked with emotion, but every word was clear and firm. I am willing. Brother Lin, wherever you are, that is my home. Whatever you want to build, I will build for you. Whether it's the apocalypse outside or this new world, I will always be by your side. No further vows were needed, her eyes said it all. Lin Chen smiled, a warm and reassuring smile that revealed his inner peace. He gently pulled her into his arms. The two embraced quietly beneath the tree of creation, by the spirit pool, their eyes meeting, 1,000 emotions and unspoken understanding surpassing 1,000 words. After a moment of tenderness, Lin Chen's mind stirred. Their figures vanished from their spot, reappearing in the distance on a soft, lush meadow. The view was expansive, nestled against a small hill, offering views of a stream and grassland. Lin Chen waved his hand, and a large, elegant bed landed steadily in the center of the meadow, covered with clean, soft bedding. A gentle breeze rustled the grass, the spirit spring whispered, and the stream babbled. Chapter 46 Brother Lin, what do you think of Sister Yun? About an hour later. Leah leaned lazily against Lin Chen's arm, her cheeks still flushed, her eyes soft and watery, her gaze fixed on his face. A profound sense of satisfaction and security enveloped her, making her want to forever immerse herself in this world that belonged only to them. Her fingertips unconsciously traced circles on his chest, feeling a strong, steady heartbeat, her heart filled with contentment and longing. However, when she inadvertently glanced up and caught sight of the still-burning, intimacy-fueled fire in his eyes, a memory-like weakness made her flinch slightly, snuggling deeper into his embrace, muttering softly, I really can't. Lin Chen's physique had been strengthened multiple times, and in this energy-filled space, he was indeed full of energy. He saw her plea and couldn't help but chuckle, affectionately ruffling her hair, not forcing her any further. Leah's eyes flickered, a sudden thought popping into her head, a way to temporarily divert his attention, solidify her position, and appear considerate and magnanimous. Brother Lin. Her voice was softer than before, tinged with a hint of slyness. What do you think of Sister Yun? Lin Chen looked down at her, momentarily caught off guard. Su Yun? She's very good, strong fighting spirit, calm, and has a good overall perspective. Why are you suddenly asking this? I mean. Leah's face turned even redder, her voice growing softer, but she adopted a serious tone as if to say, I'm doing this all for your own good. Sister Yun is beautiful, has a great figure, and most importantly, she's reliable. And I secretly asked Xiamen and the others, and she should still be a virgin. Lin Chen caught on, raising an eyebrow. What do you mean? You know perfectly well. Leah lightly punched him, then bluntly stated, You're so energetic, how can I handle it all by myself? What will we do in the long run? We need to find a reliable and pleasing helper. She counted on her fingers, looking thoughtful. Sister Yun is the most suitable. If you think that's not enough, I think the twins Yingsu and Yingyu are also interested in you. They look exactly alike, you could consider them in the future. How? Lin Chen was amused by her generosity. So willing? So eager to push others towards me? Besides, this is all just your wishful thinking, isn't it? Is Su Yun willing? What do Yingsu and Yingyu think? You're making decisions for others? HMPH. Leah raised her chin, revealing an expression that said, I've seen through you all along. You've definitely had your eye on her for a long time. You're just putting on airs and waiting for someone else to take the initiative, or for me to speak up. The more she spoke, the more she felt that she had guessed correctly. Those two little ones are practically drooling over you. Sister Yun is usually calm, but every time you speak or there's danger, the way she looks at you is different, she just hides it better. So you're not jealous? Of course, a little. Leah pouted, then immediately put on a wise and righteous posture. But what kind of world is this? What's wrong with a powerful man having a few women? Rather than letting you be seduced by some vixen later, I'd rather vet some good, obedient ones and bring them in. That way, the team will be stable, and I'll have less to worry about. The more she spoke, the more she felt she was being incredibly clever as a wise wife. Besides, I'm creating opportunities for you. And instead of thanking me, you're blaming me. Looking at her praise my cleverness little face, Lin Chen felt both amused and warm. He understood Lia's thoughts. She had a possessive streak, but even more so, she had a sense of the bigger picture and deep concern for him. This proactive arrangement was less about generosity and more about the complex wisdom, a mixture of reality, consolidating her own position, maintaining team harmony, and meeting Lin Chen's needs in the post-apocalyptic environment, a blend of emotion and strategy. So how do you plan to test it? Lin Chen was intrigued. Let's go out now. Lia suddenly perked up, sat up, and looked confidently at him. I'll test it on the spot. I guarantee you'll get what you want. She was confident she had everything under control. Lin Chen didn't object. With a slight thought, the two figures vanished from the grass and returned to the bedroom of the hotel suite. Lia quickly dressed, tidied her hair in front of the mirror, and winked at Lin Chen. Then, like a nimble cat, she darted out of the room and downstairs. Lin Chen remained alone in the room, shaking his head and chuckling. About 15 minutes later, familiar footsteps echoed in the hallway outside. The sound paused for a moment at the door, carrying a hint of obvious hesitation, before becoming firm again. Tap, tap. A soft knock sounded, exceptionally clear in the quiet night. Lin Chen had already returned to the bedside and sat down. Hearing the knock, he put away the refreshed life crystal and said loudly, "Come in, the door isn't locked." Click. The lock clicked softly, and the door was slowly pushed open. A tall, slender figure, carrying the cool night air and the fragrance of a post-bath, approached silently. She gently closed the door behind her, her movements careful and solemn. Then, she walked step by step into the bedroom. Under the light, Su-Yun's figure was clearly visible. She had clearly just taken a quick shower. Her hair, still damp at the ends, cascaded smoothly over her shoulders. She wore a pale purple silk slip dress, as thin as a cicada's wing, its design so simple it was almost frugal with fabric. It gently clung to her shapely curves, shimmering with a soft, pearly sheen under the light. She possessed both an untainted purity and an unconscious, breathtaking allure of a mature woman. The coldness of battle was washed away from her face, her skin glowed with a pale pink. Her gaze was lowered, avoiding Lin Chen's eyes, her eyelashes trembling like startled butterfly wings. She walked barefoot on the carpet, her body trembling slightly with tension and a desperate resolve, almost unsteady on her feet. But she didn't stop, she didn't retreat, she simply walked to Lin Chen, and then quietly closed her eyes. Like awaiting judgment, or like offering a sacrifice. Lin Chen rose and walked barefoot to her. They were very close. He could smell the fresh scent of her shower gel mixed with a faint natural fragrance. He could feel her body trembling slightly, and her heart pounding rapidly. "Sister Yun," he said, his voice extremely soft and slow, carrying an unmistakable reassurance and respect. "Xiaoya, she told you everything, didn't she?" Su-Yun didn't open her eyes, only nodding slightly. The nod was small, yet exceptionally firm. "Once you step onto this path, there may be no turning back. In this world, there will be more responsibilities, and you may face more dangers, and complex relationships." Lin Chen continued softly, his gaze fixed on her trembling eyelashes. "You won't regret it, right? This is your own choice." Su-Yun still kept her eyes closed. But this time, she took a deep breath, as if using all her strength, and nodded heavily and clearly again. Then, as if worried it wasn't enough, she uttered a single word in a voice as soft as a mosquito's buzz, yet incredibly firm, as if it were a resounding declaration, No more words, no affected declarations, just one syllable, yet it carried all her determination, trust, and surrender. That was enough. The last trace of concern in Lin Chen's eyes vanished, replaced by deep tenderness and acceptance. He reached out and gently pulled her trembling yet warm body into his embrace. Su-Yun stiffened at first, then completely relaxed, softly leaning against his broad, warm chest, as if she had finally found a long-lost harbor. Her eyes remained closed, but her tense nerves relaxed, and her trembling gradually subsided. Chapter 47 Su-Yun, who is easily embarrassed. Without hesitation, Lin Chen bent down and swept the trembling Su-Yun into his arms. "Ah!" Su-Yun gasped, caught off guard, instinctively wrapping her arms around his neck. She buried her burning cheeks deep in his firm, warm chest, as if it were the only haven she could find at that moment. He gently placed Su-Yun in the center of the soft, wide bed. His fingertips inadvertently brushed against her bare shoulders and neck, the touch delicate and smooth, yet carrying a burning heat. It was a temperature of tension, shyness, anticipation, and the unique warmth of a ripe fruit waiting to be picked, a mixture of youthful innocence and tenderness. Her eyelashes fluttered like butterfly wings in the wind, her half-closed eyes glistened with tears, her cheeks were flushed, and her breathing was slightly rapid. She was like a gently trembling peach, exuding a fatal allure. Lin Chen's Adam's apple bobbed involuntarily, feeling as if a wildfire was silently burning in his dry throat. His last hesitation and concerns vanished before this vibrant and fragrant sight. He leaned down and gently covered her, sealing her lingering tremors and moans with a kiss. Time slipped away quietly amidst their breaths and mingling. About an hour later, the storm subsided. Lin Chen, refreshed and languidly satisfied, leaned against the headboard. He held the soft, jade-like beauty in his arms tightly with one hand. His other hand roamed slowly over her smooth, silky back, feeling its delicate texture and the lingering throbbing. Suyun, like a completely conquered cat, curled softly against his chest, her body occasionally trembling sensitively at his soothing touch. A few barely audible moans escaped her lips as her delicate brows furrowed slightly. Clearly, the intense and protracted battle they had just experienced had left her exhausted, both physically and mentally, utterly defeated. Sister Yun, he lowered his head and kissed her sweat-dampened temple, his voice low and husky, full of tenderness and pity. You're so beautiful. Suyun's body trembled slightly, and she slowly raised her eyelids. Her eyes still held a lingering, hazy light, but beneath that alluring mist, a clear, animalistic fear and pleading were revealed. Her voice was as soft as a mosquito's buzz, carrying the weakness and shyness of the aftermath. You won't want to do it again, will you? After all, she was a virgin, and the hour-long intimacy had far exceeded the limits of her body and mind. Seeing her like this, Lin Chen's heart was gently touched, a strong protective instinct and tenderness rose within him, forcibly suppressing the heat that was stirring within him again because of her current delicate state. He chuckled softly, kissed her forehead, and said in an even gentler tone, "Silly girl, I just thought you were so beautiful that I couldn't help but compliment you. Go to sleep if you're tired, I won't bother you anymore." To distract her, he subtly took out the newly refreshed, smooth and lustrous life crystal from his special storage and offered it to her. "Eat this, it'll be good for you." Suyun trusted him completely, and although she didn't know exactly why, she obediently took it and put it in her mouth. A familiar warmth swept through her body, bringing a deeper sense of comfort and enhancement. A moment later, a look of understanding and surprise flashed in her eyes. Her special ability had indeed successfully advanced her S rank. The significant increase in power deepened her gratitude and dependence on Lin Chen. Lin Chen was pleased to see the change in her aura, then tightened his arms, pulling her closer into his embrace. "Sleep, we have important business to attend to tomorrow." Extremely exhausted yet enveloped in a tremendous sense of security, Suyun's nerves completely relaxed under the extreme relaxation brought about by the double impact. Before long, she drifted into deep sleep to the steady beat of Lin Chen's heart, her breathing becoming even and long. The next morning, the sky was just beginning to lighten. On the third day of the blood rain, the dawn was still dimly lit by thick clouds. Lin Chen woke up early. He turned to his side, gazing quietly at Suyun, who was still fast asleep. The faint light of dawn filtered through the curtains, casting soft shadows on her face. A few strands of her dark hair were stuck to the corners of her lips with sweat, adding a touch of vulnerability and gentleness rarely seen on her usual face. He moved very gently, carefully removing her arm from her head and tucking her in. Then he quietly got up, dressed, and silently pushed open the bedroom door, going to the living room. Standing by the living room window, he stretched his limbs while immersing his consciousness into the primordial creation pearl space. After a night, the creation spring within the space once again produced new crystals. Upon counting, the total number of creation crystals reached 264, 100 from yesterday's upgrade reward, 100 from this morning's natural refresh, plus the remaining 64. His gaze turned to the window. The blood rain continued to fall, but upon closer inspection, the rain seemed to be lighter than the previous 2 days, and the color appeared paler. According to his memories from his previous life, today was the third day of the global catastrophe, and also the last day of this crimson blood rain that swept the world, bringing endless nightmares. The cessation of the blood rain did not mean safety. On the contrary, it might signify the beginning of even greater chaos. More importantly, those enemies who had survived the initial collapse of order, those faces that had brought him endless pain and betrayal in his previous life, We're very likely to take advantage of the chaotic window of opportunity after the rain stopped to relocate, hide, or even gather strength. I must deal with them before the rain stops. Lin Chen's eyes turned cold, a chilling glint flashing in his deep pupils. Once the rain stopped and people began to move around, he didn't want to spend too much time searching for them. He was reborn, accumulating power. He awaited this opportunity to settle old scores with absolute force. Squeak, a soft sound of a door opening came from behind him. Lin Chen suppressed the cold glint in his eyes, regaining his composure, and turned to look. He saw Li Yan, wearing a loose coat, leaning against a bedroom doorframe, looking at him with a complex expression. Her gaze held understanding, mischief, and perhaps a hint of subtle jealousy. But more than anything, it was a knowing I knew it and a touch of smugness. A sly smile played on her lips as she lowered her voice and said, "So? Did my recommendation disappoint you? Sister Yun is cold on the outside but warm on the inside, one of the best choices for a sister." Lin Chen raised an eyebrow and walked towards her. "Did you come here so early to check up on me, or to claim credit?" Who checked up on me?" Leah blushed slightly, then puffed out her chest, trying to appear righteous. "I'm openly and legitimately concerned about the mental and physical health of the core team members. Besides, who agreed to let me try it last night? Now that the results are in and the effects are significant, shouldn't you consider the follow-up plans? For example, those two little girls, Yingsu and Yingyu?" She winked, her implication clear. Lin Chen looked at her deeply thoughtful yet slightly jealous expression, finding it both amusing and heartwarming. Chapter 48 Group Operations. Lin Chen reached out and pinched Li Ya's nose, not answering directly, but changing the subject, his tone becoming serious. "Don't think about that now. Go wake everyone up, we have important business to tend to, it's time to get started." Seeing this, Li Ya immediately dropped her joking expression. She knew that when Lin Chen showed this expression, it meant there was an important decision or task. She nodded solemnly, "Okay, I'll go right now." Just as she turned to go call people, the door to another bedroom opened softly. Suyun, already dressed, came out. She had changed into a clean and neat tracksuit, her long hair tied in a neat ponytail, although a trace of last night's blush had not completely faded from her face. But her eyes had regained their usual calmness and focus, only unconsciously shifting slightly when meeting Lin Chen's gaze, her ears turning red. "Why didn't you rest a little longer?" Lin Chen walked towards her, his tone gentle. Suyun's cheeks flushed slightly, and she whispered, "I heard you talking. You said you had something important to announce, so I got up." Her voice was soft, but it carried an unwavering sense of execution. Lin Chen inwardly approved, taking out a set of combat clothes and boots that fit her size and were easier to move in from his special storage and handing them to her. She had only worn the thin nightgown last night, so she naturally needed to change. Seeing this usually decisive and aloof businesswoman now showing rare shyness and obedience, he felt a surge of warmth, but he refrained from further teasing, saying only seriously, "Go change. We'll be assembling the team later for mission assignments." "Okay." Suyun took the clothes and quickly returned to her room to change. 15 minutes later, in the hotel lobby, Lin Chen led the way, with Li Yan and Suyun standing on either side. Behind them were Zhang Yingsu, Zhang Yingyu, Zhou Xiaomin, Zhang Jing, and the other initial members, as well as the 162 newly awakened team members, all standing solemnly. After a night's rest and the awakening of their abilities, most people's mental state had noticeably improved. Their eyes showed less fear and more anticipation for the future and a hint of eagerness to try out their newly acquired power. Lin Chen surveyed the crowd, his gaze calm yet powerful, his voice clear and resonant throughout the room. After a night of rest and initial adaptation, everyone should be in good shape. Survival in the apocalypse is like rowing against a current. If you don't move forward, you fall behind. We must take the initiative, acquire resources, hone our skills, and expand our living space. He paused, then continued, "A snake cannot move without a head, and an army will fall into chaos without a general. Our team is growing, and to act, manage, and survive more effectively, we must establish a clear organization and discipline. Effective immediately, I hereby officially appoint Li Yan and Suyun as deputy leaders." Li Yan and Suyun straightened their backs simultaneously, their eyes sharp, accepting this weighty responsibility and trust. "You two will each lead a team," Lin Chen said, his gaze sweeping over the crowd. Following the method we tested at the Art Academy yesterday, each will be responsible for clearing a section of the university campus. Remember, the primary objective of this mission is not to collect ordinary supplies. Take what you can easily find, but don't waste too much time and manpower on it. And definitely don't take risks. The core objectives are twofold. First, to collect as many energy cores as possible from inside the zombie skulls. Second, to recruit new, promising team members who meet our standards, while ensuring safety and controlling risks. He emphasized, pay attention to the combination of abilities when dividing into teams. Offensive, defensive, control, support, healing. These should be reasonably configured to form complementary combat groups, avoiding teams with overly singular abilities. The specific combinations will depend on the awakened abilities of your team members. Li Ya and Su Yun responded in unison, understood. With the appointments given, the two immediately began their work. They already had a basic understanding of these new team members, and using their memories and simple questions, they quickly began to form groups. Lin Chen also offered crucial advice from the sidelines. With 5 years of experience surviving the apocalypse, he was intimately familiar with the characteristics, potential, and practical applications of most superpowers. After more than half an hour, the initial groupings were completed. Li Ya led the first team, totaling 88 people, including several elemental and enhancement-type superpower users with outstanding offensive capabilities, as well as members with defensive, healing, and reconnaissance abilities. Su Yun led the second team, totaling 87 people, also emphasizing a balance between offense and defense and complementary functions. The two teams were roughly evenly matched, and the core members were well distributed. The group moved to the eaves of the hotel entrance. Lin Chen's thoughts flashed, and to everyone's astonishment, dozens of various cars appeared out of thin air, neatly arranged under the eaves and on the adjacent open space in front of the hotel. Most university students today have driver's licenses, and while their driving skills might be rusty, there were almost no other vehicles on the apocalyptic roads, and most obstacles were stationary, making driving relatively easy. Each team was allocated over 40 vehicles, averaging 2 people per car, allowing for mutual support and maximizing vehicle utilization. Lin Chen loaded the supplies into the trunks of each vehicle, ample food and water, spare weapons, ammunition, and protective gear. Everything was provided. Xiaoya, Sister Yun, Lin Chen called the two newly appointed deputy commanders aside to a secluded spot, his expression serious as he whispered, "You each lead your teams out. The target is still the universities in University City." He paused, then added, "Remember, safety is the top priority. When clearing zombies, pay attention to tactics and prioritize your own survival. Recruit team members carefully, focusing on their character and teamwork. If you encounter danger or emergencies you can't handle, don't fight head-on, contact me immediately. Aren't you coming with us?" Li Ya keenly caught the implication in his words, her brow furrowing slightly, a hint of worry in her eyes. "Yes, I need to go alone." Lin Chen's gaze fell on the misty rain outside the hotel, his eyes calm yet tinged with coldness. "I need to go to the city center to settle some personal old scores. And, while I'm at it, I'll take this last chance to raid some potentially valuable supply depots." Li Ya and Su Yun exchanged a glance, both seeing understanding and support in each other's eyes. They didn't press for details about the old grievances, that was Lin Chen's past, and if he wanted to tell them, he would. They only needed to know that he had his reasons for doing what he decided to do. All they could do was take care of the rear area he had entrusted to them and wait for his safe return. Almost simultaneously, the two stepped forward and gently embraced Lin Chen, one on each side, their movements restrained yet full of warmth. In his ears, they whispered in voices only they could hear, "Be careful. We'll wait for you to come back." Lin Chen felt a warmth in his heart, reaching out to gently kiss each of their foreheads, reassuring them, "Don't worry, it's just handling some minor matters, it's very safe. You two should also be careful while leading your teams, and stay in touch." The bloodshed was about to subside, the final opportunity for revenge was before them. He wouldn't let any of his enemies lurking in the shadows of the city escape. He wouldn't give them any chance to escape or prolong their lives in the chaos. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 49 Northward Journey, Revenge. Lin Chen didn't waste any more time. He used special teleportation directly. When he reappeared, he was standing on a quiet street behind the hotel, filled with abandoned vehicles and roaming zombies. He chose a direction and began to run at high speed. At this moment, his heart was burning with the excitement of about to avenge his great enemy. Along the way, he casually collected all the goods from the large shopping malls and supermarkets into his special storage. Each sudden appearance and disappearance stirred up whispers and commotion among the scattered survivors, and some even posted images of him appearing and then losing all his supplies online, which were widely circulated. The cold rain could not extinguish the ever-burning flame of revenge in his heart. His goal for this trip was clear: first, to a large, modern frozen food storage center north of Guangzhou. Fragments of his past life memories surfaced clearly at this moment. Black Dragon, whose real name was Zilong. Before the apocalypse, he was just an ordinary long-haul cold chain driver, full of the ruthlessness and slickness of the streets. On the day the blood rain fell, he was driving a truck loaded with frozen goods to this cold storage. The mutation trapped him in this fortress built of steel and freezing temperatures, and even more luckily, he was drenched in the initial rain of blood. Ironically, while most who were caught in the rain turned into zombies, Zilong survived, awakening a rare A-level speed ability. With this divinely bestowed power, he hunted down the slow-moving early-stage zombies in the perilous cold storage area and quickly gathered together more than 10 trapped workers and security guards. The massive quantities of meat and seafood stored in the cold storage became the hard currency of the apocalypse: food. Using food as bait and the power granted by his speed as a deterrent, his power snowballed. Zilong was ruthless and domineering, quickly seizing several blocks surrounding the frozen goods warehouse as his private property. He gathered a group of fearless and unscrupulous outlaws, becoming a terrifying bandit force in the northern district. In his previous life, Black Dragon had repeatedly recruited Lin Chen, who also possessed an A-level ability. Lin Chen, however, despite the group's vicious and unscrupulous actions and resolutely refused. This offended Black Dragon, who saw it as ungratefulness and harbored a grudge, repeatedly hunting down Lin Chen and his companions. Lin Chen knew he was no saint. Having struggled for 5 years in the apocalypse, fighting for survival and resources, he too had stained his hands with the blood of many of his kind. But he adhered to his ironclad rules. In the struggle for survival resources, life and death depended on ability. Killing opponents was considered perfectly justifiable. But he would never torture for pleasure, nor would he wield his blade against ordinary people, especially women and children, who had never offended him. That crossed the line of survival competition. It was utter bestiality, the final trampling of humanity. And Black Dragon? He was a complete beast, a demon in human skin. The blood debts related to his gang in his past life still filled Lin Chen with a physiological aversion and rage. All able-bodied men, strong, healthy, or suspected of having superpowers, were forcibly abducted and recruited. Any hesitation or resistance resulted in broken limbs and being thrown into the zombie horde, left to watch as they were devoured alive. The old, weak, sick, and disabled were not even worthy of being cannon fodder in the Black Dragon's eyes. They were directly fed to the zombies and their crystal cores extracted. Women suffered the darkest fate. Those with even a hint of beauty were selected by the Black Dragon and his core leaders, reduced to playthings, and subjected to inhuman torture day and night. Those of average appearance suffered even more tragic fates, treated as disposable consumables or prizes, given to his henchmen, or even used as goods in trade with other forces. In the Black Dragon's controlled territory, the atmosphere of utter darkness, hopelessness, and the crushing of human dignity was a veritable hell on earth. For many who fell into his hands, death became a release. Time continued to move forward. Approximately 2 years after the apocalypse, global climate changed drastically, and sea levels rose rapidly for unknown reasons, with coastal cities bearing the brunt. Yangcheng was gradually eroded by the seawater and the encroaching sea monsters, becoming uninhabitable for humans. At that time, the remaining major powers in Yangcheng had, after 2 years of chaotic fighting and annexation, established a clear power structure. The prevailing opinion was to migrate northwestward into the interior, targeting the Sichuan-Chongqing region, considered a strategic rear area. Its complex terrain, easy to defend and difficult to attack, and relatively abundant resources made it a hopeful place for rebuilding order. However, Heilong once again revealed his eccentricity and ambition. He refused to follow the mainstream to Sichuan and compete with other powerful figures, instead making a surprising decision, leading his core followers westward, directly towards Mingchang near the southwestern border. His ambition was blatant: better to be a big fish in a small pond than a small fish in a big pond. He knew he couldn't quickly dominate in the powerful Sichuan-Chongqing region, so he chose the relatively powerless and complex Mingchang area, attempting to carve out a territory and establish himself as a local emperor. Lin Chen, Zhao Kai, and Li Qiang, in their previous lives, also ended up in Mingcheng, not by choice, but due to a dramatic and unexpected disaster. That was about 2 months before the fall of Yangcheng. During a search for supplies, the three-person team unexpectedly rescued a young woman fleeing from pursuers in the ruins on the city's outskirts. She was stunningly beautiful and possessed a unique aura. It was Li Yang. Initially, Zhao Kai, captivated by her striking appearance, impulsively suggested taking action. The three joined forces to repel the first wave of pursuers. They initially thought they had simply rescued an ordinary girl from a small force. However, the scale and intensity of the second encirclement revealed that they had stirred up a hornet's nest. Li's true identity was that of the only son of the leader of the Yangcheng official sanctuary, the private property of a cruel and arrogant playboy. Her escape was a slap in the face to him. Faced with the encirclement of the playboy's elite combat team, Lin Chen and his two companions, despite their desperate efforts, were outnumbered and gradually fell into a deadly situation. In a critical moment, Li Yang, with her fierce temperament, threatened suicide, holding a dagger to her throat and using her life as a bargaining chip to carve a path to survival for Lin Chen and his companions. This was one of the reasons why Lin Chen favored her so much in this life. For the next 2 months, the three fled into the enemy's weakest point, the military's territory in the south of the city, hiding, escaping endless bounty hunts. Until the rising sea level crisis loomed, the entire city of Yangcheng descended into a final frenzy and chaotic migration. The faction to which the second young master belonged decided to relocate to Sichuan and Chongqing, gave them a chance to catch their breath. With an uncertain future ahead, Sichuan and Chongqing were out of the question. Helpless, the three had no choice but to flee westward with scattered groups of survivors, eventually ending up in the territory of Mingchang by a twist of fate. Then came the cruelest joke of fate. Under the Black Dragon's manipulation, a fatal betrayal led to the team's annihilation and his rebirth. Whoosh, a biting wind, carrying blood-stained rain, lashed against Lin Chen's face, pulling him back to reality from the churning memories of his past life. He stopped at the edge of the rooftop of a 30-story building, the city's silhouette blurred and chaotic in the rain below. The iconic, massive rectangular cold storage complex in the North District was now visible on the horizon. Ah! Lin Chen couldn't help but roar, his voice echoing across the surrounding area. A chilling killing intent, like a tangible cold current, slowly condensed and settled in his eyes. Reborn, possessing foresight, the primordial creation Pearl, and multiple top-tier superpowers, how could he endure the humiliation and suffering of his past life again? How could he allow an enemy like the Black Dragon to have a chance to live? The reckoning would begin in this cold, frozen warehouse. Lin Chen took a deep breath of the damp air, which smelled of decay, and his figure disappeared again from the edge of the rooftop. Chapter 50 Doomsday Rush. Lin Chen's figure flashed like black lightning tearing through the gloomy sky, hurtling northward through the city. The once bustling streets had become silent, dead zones. Scrapped vehicles lay scattered across every main road, windows shattered, bodies twisted, silently testifying to the carnage and chaos of the catastrophe. Countless zombies, their skin ashen, pupils black, and clothes tattered, wandered aimlessly in the drizzling rain of blood. Incomprehensible roars rose and fell from their throats, forming a chilling, hellish whisper that filled every inch of the air thick with a stench of rust and decay. Lin Chen's run was a perfect synergy of strength and supernatural abilities. With each stomp of his foot, the concrete ground trembled slightly, propelling him forward like a cannonball, covering dozens of meters in a single stride. His clothes, stretched taut at the extreme speed, fluttered and rustled like blades cutting through the damp wind. Even more bizarre was his unpredictable spatial teleportation. Whenever he encountered a complex obstacle that couldn't be crossed in a straight line, his figure would blur and disappear without warning. The next moment, he would appear on a rooftop, lamppost, or relatively open area 100 meters or more away. The seamless integration of the two modes of movement made his overall travel efficiency no less than that of a car speeding at 100 km/h on a smooth highway. This was merely the routine operation of the superposition of his two S-class abilities, spatial teleportation and extraordinary physical abilities. For the zombies that acted solely on instinct, they only felt an extremely vivid and alluring flesh and blood scent sweep past like a whirlwind, strongly stimulating their dulled nerves and arousing an even more frenzied roar and pursuit instinct. But their empty eye sockets could never truly lock onto that fleeting black shadow, and in the end, they could only continue to wander meaninglessly in bewildered anger. He had to be fast. Time was the cruelest enemy. Once this bizarre blood rain that had lasted for 3 days completely stopped, the situation would instantly become incredibly complex. Many survivors, on the verge of collapse due to hunger, fear, or injury, either become mindless zombies upon leaving their hiding places, or scatter like frightened birds, hiding in the wider ruins and corners of the city. At that point, apart from the Black Dragon with his fixed stronghold, finding Zhao Kai and Li Qiang, those two brothers betrayed in his past life, from the vast sea of people would inevitably take a considerable amount of time, allowing them to survive a little longer, something he certainly didn't want. Lin Chen's chest was already ablaze with the flames of revenge, almost bursting forth. About an hour later, the iconic North City Cold Chain Logistics Park came into view. The towering, silver-white cold storage buildings stretched endlessly, resembling a crouching steel behemoth under the gray sky. This place had once been a crucial hub for ensuring the fresh food supply chain of Guangzhou and the surrounding areas. On ordinary days, it was bustling with traffic and people, heavy trucks loaded with all kinds of frozen goods coming and going. Now, it was as quiet as a giant tomb. The only things still active were the scattered zombies staggering along the park's roads and loading platforms, and the futile crashes and screams coming from some enclosed trucks. Lin Chen slowed down, sneaking into the park like a ghost. Meanwhile, deep within the park, in a 3-story building used for offices and rest areas, a living hell was unfolding. In a spacious office on the 3rd floor, originally belonging to the management staff, the atmosphere was lewd and brutal. Zilong, now calling himself Black Dragon, arrogantly placed one foot on the chest of a slightly overweight man in his 50s, a cruel and smug smile on his face. The man's clothes were disheveled, his forehead bloodied and mangled. He was Bossjet, one of the main owners of this cold chain park. On the leather sofa next to him sat a beautiful young woman in her late 20s, with a pretty face and a slender figure. She was being held down by 2 burly men, her designer suit torn to shreds, revealing large patches of her pale skin, her eyes filled with despair and tears. Outside the door stood 4 or 5 men, wielding clubs and wearing similar expressions of excitement and anticipation. These were Black Dragon's newly recruited thugs. Boss Jen, Black Dragon bent down, patted the other man's pale face, and sneered, "Tisk, remember when I used to deliver goods to you, offering you a cigarette with utmost respect, and you wouldn't even lift an eyelid, thinking my hands were dirty? And now? He straightened up, spread his arms, and let out an extremely arrogant laugh. What goes around comes around. Today I'm not only going to treat your wife well in front of you, but I'm also going to have my brothers outside take good care of her too." He paused and added, "Don't worry, my brothers may look rough, but they're all pretty skilled. You old man and young woman, I bet you've been impotent for a while now, haven't you? Look at her figure, that stunning face, she's definitely never been taken good before, maybe she's been itching for it for a while." The burly men around him responded with rough laughter and whistles, some even taking out their phones and pretending to record, as if to capture this glorious moment. Boss just struggled, ignoring the blood streaming down his forehead that blurred his vision, desperately forcing a fawning expression, his voice trembling as he begged for mercy. "Brother Long. Master Long. I was wrong. I really know I was wrong. Please, have mercy, let me go. This park, these cold storage facilities, all the supplies inside, are all yours. They're all for you." He seemed afraid he wouldn't have enough bargaining chips, hastily adding more, even trampling on his last shred of dignity. My wife, you can take care of her as you please. Give her to the brothers as you like. To tell you the truth, I'm useless now. This woman I married, I haven't even touched her yet." Really? To save his life, he had abandoned everything. The beautiful woman on the sofa, hearing her husband's shameless words, completely collapsed, letting out a piercing cry. "You bastard, Jeff! You coward! You beast! I was blind to marry you." Tears mixed with despair streamed down her delicate face. Halong looked contemptuously at Boss Jet, who was crawling on the ground like a dog. He wiped the blood on the man's face with the sole of his shoe and said slowly, "Your cold storage? Your wife? Huh. Jen, haven't you figured out the situation yet? Right now, everything here, including you and your wife, is in my hands. You're using my things as bargaining chips to exchange with me? Are you out of your mind?" After he finished speaking, he laughed wildly again, the laughter echoing loudly in the empty office. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.